Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have Nick Trigili as a guest. The reason I had Nick on today is to discuss his experience and struggle and success in overcoming addiction. I find this particularly inspiring because it's quite rare to find people who are addicted to both opiates and benzodiazepines come off and be sober completely. Nick did this to no acclaim of my knowledge, and he deserves some acclaim for it. Just for your information, Nick is a pro bodybuilder with, in the last 10 years, maybe you can say he's one of the pro bodybuilders that had the most anticipated careers. But his pro bodybuilding career was sort of cut short because of his disillusionment with the sport, as well as eventually his addiction, which he discussed at great length in this interview. In the interview, we begin by discussing his background, where he grew up, how he had a difficult time in his teenage years. We discuss his experiences with partying as well as with drug use. And we discuss how he overcame his drug use and how he improved his health issues. We also briefly discuss his time on YouTube at the end, as well as his recent conflict with Greg Doucette. And I hope you guys enjoy the discussion today. I found it very enjoyable to talk to Nick. Hey, Nick. So you grew up in New Jersey?
Yeah, so everyone knows the show Jersey Shore. Unfortunately, I kind of grew up with all those kids, and I knew them prior to that whole TV show that came out. And then I actually tried out for the Jersey Shore show. And I had this crazy girlfriend at the time, and I went for my first audition without telling her. It was in Atlantic City, and I made the second and third audition, and I went to the second one, and that's when she caught me going to it because I went down to Atlantic City for the weekend. I said I was partying with my friends, and then I ended up being on this audition tape that got out on the internet at the time on MySpace. And she's like, "You lied to me," and freaked out, and I never went back for the third audition, but Ronnie, I knew Paulie decent. I knew Vinny pretty well from Staten Island. And they all went back, and a bunch of other people I knew went back, and they all got called. And obviously you saw what happened with that show. So, but yeah, the Jersey Shore is where I literally grew up. I went to school in Belmar. That's where my high school was, St. Rose, until I got kicked out of there. But we'll talk about that later. But, that's where I grew up, though, was right in that shitstorm of craziness.
That is crazy. I was gonna ask you actually. I don't watch reality shows, but when in like 2009 or 10, I watched a couple of seasons of that because it was really crazy. You actually knew those people, Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, the Jersey Shore and like that area is pretty. It's a small community of people. Like you see the same people out. Like it's like the same people in the same spots with the same bartenders and the same cocktail waitress. Everyone has like their thing, especially if you're like a reoccurring person like I was out every weekend. So you would see them everywhere, you know what I mean? And you just become, everyone's like, and back then, dude, there was no animosity between men or women. There was no like Me Too movements. There was no guys trying to like stiff arm each other for chicks and like be weird. It was just like, I'm not saying we're having big orgies or anything, but like everyone was just fucking cool. And it was like, there was no like, oh, you have to fit in or buy a bottle to do this. Everyone just was like, hey, come over, have a drink, chill. Like it was a much more different scene, much different scene. So I was used to that world, but that's how it was though.
I wonder how people actually go out to clubs and stuff with the Me Too. I mean, thank God I'm married and stuff. It must be really hard to approach a woman. You can, there's so much to yourself, and she could get offended. And
I couldn't imagine dealing with like the social media aspect of it. And then like, it's just so much extra stress I didn't have to deal with. Like my girlfriend and I, we've been friends for over 10 years, we didn't start dating until about 4 years ago, but we knew each other prior to like this shit, you know what I mean? This world that we're kind of in now. And she doesn't even like social media. She's not even on there. So it doesn't even matter. And the only reason I'm on there is because of it's how the world is now to make money. I can't live without it. So, but I don't share much of my personal life on there. I'm not big on that. Just because people are very nosy and then they kind of build their own narratives on how they want to protect you to everybody. And I learned the hard way when I first started social media about sharing too much. And it just, and then people just, they generate this picture of you of how you are. And that's not really me, And at the time I thought that's what get me more attention, and it didn't. It backfired, you know. So now I just keep it business. I keep it about what I'm passionate about, what I'm trying to put, my image I'm trying to put off, the information I'm trying to put out, and that's it, you know. Just like you're doing now. It's just business, you know. That's what it should be.
Well, despite that, I still have some interesting people trying to stalk me and stuff like that. Even though I have 3,000 subscribers, but people are
but it builds up quick though. Like people don't realize like even 3,000 is still it makes waves fast though. Like, you know what I mean? It's weird. Like before I felt like the number was everything, and now it's really not. Like it's really just who you have following you. Like obviously we talked about Greg before on the DL, and obviously he has a lot of followers, but even so, like even before he had all those followers, when I first reached out to him, the video that he made me on, which was a year and a half ago, he only had 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. 50,000, which is nothing essentially. I mean, it's reachable. And at the time, when I first saw Greg, I was ahead of him, and all of a sudden he was like, blaring by everybody. And that's when I reached out to him. It was literally in May or June, right before my birthday. And I was like, oh, he'll definitely do a video. And I just casually asked him to do a video, and everyone's like, oh, you're sucking Greg off. You want to be like Greg. I'm like, dude, it was like a mutual respect thing. Like I asked the guy to do a fucking video, you know? And
a lot of people liked his personality when he first started.
Yeah, I did too.
He seemed like a humble guy and a nice guy, and has that Canadian niceness about him. And so I felt like people really tried to misportray those messages you sent, because you could have sent that to anyone you respect or admire on YouTube, but he totally changed in the last year.
Yeah, and I did. I've sent that message to. I mean, guys deny me to do podcasts because they're like, or they give you. I'm sure you deal with. They give you the runaround. They're like, yeah, tomorrow or whatever, and they never even answer you. And they're like, oh, sorry, bro, I'm busy, and then I'll do it later, and then they never show up, and you're like the jerk off chasing them. And that's why I was doing a lot of interviews when I first started, and I loved it, but the amount of work I was putting in to do an interview was just not worth it anymore. I was not getting anything out of it. You know, it was helping them and more was helping me. And it's just really hard to keep up with. So, I mean, for you to keep doing interviews, I mean, God bless you, dude. It's hard. It's really hard.
It does take a lot of effort. That's true. Wait, before we get into, because I have some questions about the YouTube stuff, but before we get into that, I just want to understand. So, is your family background like you grew up in an Italian family, 2 parents, lots of siblings, or were you the only child? What was it like growing up?
Dad's Italian, as Italian as they come. And then my mom is Irish, German, Swedish. And I have an older sister and I have 2 half brothers. I was the youngest of the family. So I had a very mature family growing up. Like my brothers are in their, I'm 33. So they're late 40s, my brothers. My sister's 9 years older than me. So she's 40. And I was like the baby when I came out, So I was surrounded by giants. Everyone was like very old, mature, doing their thing already when I was growing up. So I had a lot of older friends too because of them. I latched on to their friends and whoever they were around. And then I met other people, of course. So I was around younger people or my age when I was growing up. And, because you want to be like in the cool crowd when you're, growing up, and you realize you want to like age up, and it's not really the cool thing to do, but you want to do that for some reason. And I got so attached to that. And I never hung out with my high school friends, like ever. I never was around them. I would come home from school and call my friends that were older and go hang out with them and just tag along, They probably didn't want me there, but I'd force myself there, I see it now though, because when kids call me that are like younger and they want to hang out, I'm like, get out of here. You're not hanging out with me, but at the time I didn't realize how good I had it because I had a lot of good people around me, and like they did mentor me in some directions the right way, but some I got a little fucking messed up in, but for the most part, yeah. But I had a very normal upbringing. My dad's an electronic engineer, was very successful, still is. A very smart guy. My mom's an interior decorator, so she works still right now, even at like 70 years old. My parents still both work. They're just hardworking people. I mean, just normal as you can get, as laid back as you can get, except for when I wanted to do steroids at 15. But that's a whole nother story.
But how did you? So you've thought you had a great interview on Dave Palumbo's channel like 2 years ago or so, where
Yeah.
you described in high school becoming somewhat of a delinquent, meaning like the guy in. I'm assuming you got into fights, but I want to know the story. And eventually got expelled from high school at 16. So what
So
I'm curious about before that is there something in your childhood that made you uh, get into that? Is there a background that you know about, or is it just it happened?
so I was like a junkie with sports. I was a jock. Like I was a jock. Like I was terrible at school. I couldn't focus. I had really bad ADD. I was always the kid in like the separate classes, the special ed classes, because I don't know. I don't think I had a learning disability. It was just the lack of me wanting to learn. I didn't care. I didn't care about my education, and I was just a rebel when it came to being going to school. Even my first day of school, my mom used to have to drag me by my book bag to get into the classroom as a kindergartner. For like, I dreaded school. I was not a happy person in school. So then, Catholic school, grammar school, all growing up till eighth grade, kindergarten to eighth, and then I went to Catholic high school, which was St. Rose, and that was in Belmar. And my sister went there, so I had to follow her footstep, type of thing. But my dad was, listen, he didn't abuse me, but when I grew up, you got hit. I mean, that was just, it was part of the life. Like that's how it was. You got in trouble. You got smacked across your head or your face, or your ass, your back, whatever. Not because my dad was beating me like child abuse, but that's just how you got. It's how they did it. Reprimand you. So my dad always told me to be tough. Like don't cry when I hit you. Be stronger. Don't break down. Don't get in trouble. Like just don't foul kids. Like my dad was very like repetitious with that all the time. And so when that like kind of rubbed off of me in the sports world. So I was like, when I played basketball, I was like a fucking lunatic I was like football to me. Like I was like a brawler instead of a baller on basketball court because I didn't have football growing up. So basketball was like my way of letting out my anger. And then I got into track and field, which I fell in love with. But basketball was my sport. And I was a very aggressive basketball player. I was always fouling out, getting flagrant fouls, like elbowing people. Like I had a bad temper. And I don't know where that came from. Because my dad's a hothead, but not until you get him to that, he's got a lot of patience, but until he gets to that point, then he explodes. And that's how I am. And I don't know if I got that from him, but I was a very aggressive basketball player. I was aggressive with everything. I didn't know how to be gentle, even like with anything, like if somebody annoyed me in school, I would just shove them and hit them. I didn't care. I didn't think, oh, let's talk this out in the corner and be friends. And I still don't know to this day because I didn't have any trauma. I didn't have any issues growing up. I had a very normal, I don't want to sound racist, but like a normal white kid fucking upbringing. My parents worked. I had everything I wanted. And I just went to Catholic school, which was very expensive to go to. I should have been a little more respectful of that. But I was not good with following rules. And that started very early. And even when I got to Catholic school, like I had to wear a suit to school. So like shirt, tie, jacket, everything had to be tucked in. Like when you got to the door at school, they check your uniform. They measure like your pant length. And it was like intense, dude. Like, even for a freshman, I was already wearing a uniform as it is, but going into high school, it was hard to adjust to that. And I would walk in, just untuck my shirt and just be a dick and get detention so I can go home. And,
Do you think it was that? Do you think it was the fact that you were having difficulties focusing and you were feeling like you were, disadvantaged, or maybe other kids were looking down on you, or the teachers were not getting things as quickly because you had problems focusing, and then that made you? Do you think it was that made you have an issue with school?
I think it was a combination of this. So I had, not bragging, I just had a lot of attention because I was very good at sports. Like even freshman year, I had a lot of colleges looking at me for basketball and track and field. And like, I was a prospect, but they always saw my grades and were like, at the time grades mattered. So like I was struggling hard with my grades, like I would have honors in history and then I'd be in the special ed math. Like that's how weird my brain was. And I would get so much flack for like being the dumb jock all the time. But at the time, I don't know if it bothered me or not, but I didn't care at the time, I didn't think I did because I was so good at sports. I would shit on these kids on the basketball court or beat them in a race or a track and field. I would jump further. So man to man, I don't know if it really bothered me, but mentally probably just walking around the school knowing I'm not going that way to go to the normal classes. I'm going to the right where all the special people go to get, I have like 7 teachers and like you're in this room by yourself, or go to the trailers that are like everyone's walking, because my school is very small, but at the Catholic school at least. So like all the normal kids went this way and I would always have to go that way down the parking lot to the trailer for like a lot of my classes. And that's like the one-on-one time. So listen, I don't know to this day. I never went through it enough to like say, yes, that bothered me or irritated me, but I would get my anger out playing sports though. Like that was when we got there after school, I was like ready. Like I was like, I can remember it so distinctly that I was amped to like go play basketball or amped to go to track and field practice just to like let out that anger every day, And that's how I got into lifting. That's how it all started, because the weight room there. And that was the biggest release I ever had. That's where it all started. So
how did you get expelled? Because that seems to have put a fork into your life, where college was not an issue and you went in a different direction. How did that?
Yeah, so I got tutors for everything. My parents spent all this money on homeschool tutors after school. I got all my grades up to be good, like C's and B's, like I was passing. I wasn't like D's anymore. I was applying myself. I felt better. And then I had these 3 friends that they were like my homies. Like they were like my basketball friends, my track and field friends. And I was always I don't know how you were when you were growing up, but I was always the ringleader of my friends. Like they were like, you set the bar and we'll follow type of thing. And it was always like, oh, let's see what Nick does. And then we'll follow. So we all had this teacher. I'm not going to say her name because she literally still has a restraining order against me to this day. And we'll call her Gag. Her name is longer than that. Anyway, so there's some irony to this whole story anyway. So she used to pick on me like more than anybody I know at the time in my class. So she would put me in the front of the class and face my desk to the class and make me sit there like that through the entire class, and then pick on me for like every question, knowing I didn't know the answers because I was a little fucked up and not paying attention or slow, whatever you want to call it. So she would embarrass me on purpose all the time. Her son was a freshman at the time and I was a junior, and he was just, I'm not trying to make fun of skinny kids, but he was like skinny and then skinnier kid. Okay. Like the kid you put in the locker. Tried out for basketball, tried out for soccer, tried out for never made any team because he was horrible. They let him on as the basketball team as like pretty much a ball boy. So we used to like beat him up in the locker room, like do hard, like pull his clothes in the shower and like, put shit in his shoes, tie his shoelaces together, like just ruin him until like he almost like lost his mind and tried to like go crazy. So the mom used to take out her anger on us because we pick on her son so bad. So one day in classroom, something happened upwards. I don't know what. I grabbed my desk and I threw it. So like we had those little, like you probably had the same ones, the little arm and it flips up and you get out. They weighed nothing. Okay. And I was juicing at the time. I'm 15 years old. I'm already juiced out of my mind. So I picked up and threw the desk at the wall where she was. Like I didn't try to hit her, but I tried to scare her with the desk. So she immediately told me to go to the principal office and they suspended me and sent me home. So now I was home for, I think like maybe a week or 2. My parents let my friends sleep over, like my 3 friends that would always entice me to be like a dick and whatever. We stole my parents' car. We didn't have our driver's license yet. And we went to her house, which was only maybe 4 minutes down the road. Okay. And we eyed it up. Long story short, we eyed it up. We're like, okay, we're going to paintball our house. We're going to break her windows. We're going to shoot it with a paintball gun. We're going to egg it. We're going to fucking destroy her house and her cars. We made this whole game plan. So we did a sleepover, like again, a week later, fast forward, we dress up in like hockey gear and like, I don't even remember. We were so stupid at the time. We brought like all this stuff. It was like crowbars and hammers and like duct tape, like everything possible bad, baseball bats. And we stuffed it in my mom's truck and I hid in the back and my friend Jack drove. God bless him. He's not even here anymore. And we all drove to the house thinking we're going to like, bro, I don't even know what we're going to do. Kick in the door. I don't fucking know. So we immediately, as soon as we get out of the house, we start shooting the paintball gun. The cops turn their lights on. They're watching the house.
Oh my God.
It's like a very small town. So she must have found out from us bullshitting throughout the school about this whole thing. We were all running our mouths about it, that we're going to like try to break in and do whatever to her. So the cops were surveilling the house. So we got arrested and thrown on the law in like 2 seconds. We got arrested for like terroristic charges, like possession of weapons. Like, thank God we were underage because it all got dropped. But from that point on, I got expelled from St. Rose, the Catholic school, because of this. And I was like the ringleader of the group. So they all blamed it on me. All those 3 kids got to stay in the school. I didn't. I got blamed for everything. I got charged with everything. I got all these lawsuits against me. My dad had to pay like, I don't know how much money to lawyers, to her, to fix her house, to do the things we did break. Bro, it was an utter nightmare. So it was literally like maybe the second month into the school year. So I couldn't even leave to transfer to public school. They don't accept mid-year transfers. So I had that whole year. And that was the turning point in my life that year. When I got kicked out, from that point forward, that's when I got my job at the gym. And that's when it all, I was already starting to juice though. It was already started because of sports, but now it was time to like transform my body, you know? So.
And what happened there, just to fill in the blanks, is that you were really into track and field or
yeah. So I had like a lot of scholarships for track and field, especially. Listen, I was a 6-foot point guard white kid. I probably wasn't going to a D1 school for basketball or anything, but I did have smaller community colleges and you know, D3 schools that wanted to take me because I was good. I wasn't like the star player, but I was good. I was starting varsity since freshman year. We had a very good parochial basketball team. We had a lot of eyes on us. But my track and field, I did the decathlon. That was like that was my dream, dude. Like that shattered everything, that event, that ruined everything. Everyone retracted their scholarships and I lost everything because of that. Because my school was getting all the mail for my sponsorships and scholarships and they wrote back what happened. And they weren't legally allowed to do that because I was already not a student there anymore. Yeah. And they told them what happened. And I was supposed to be able to answer that myself or deal with it myself. And there was a big lawsuit because of that too, but it would end up being a dead end anyway. But it was a really fucking stressful time at the time. I mean, it doesn't sound like much now, but
no, it's
when you're 16, 15 years old and all that happens to you and your parents are like, they go from loving you to like, don't even want to look at you. And I was like demoralized from that because my parents were like, you know, they were my best friends, you know, I was very close to them. So that was a lot to stomach at the time.
No, and not only that, but when that happens to you when you're 15 or 16, it permanently changes the way your brain works because you're still young and now you're dealing with this kind of life-changing anxiety. You don't know what's going to happen to you. You lost so much. Everyone's against you. And
yeah, I lost all my friends too. That was the worst part because I was all about my friend. I'm a person that needs friends and I lost all my friends because of that. Everybody. And I was by myself, you know. Everyone turned their back against me. So I was like, okay, no problem, you know. Plus, you know, I had to do like, bro, it was probably like 500 community service hours. I had to go to that, you know, the Scared Straight program. You know what that is?
Yeah.
I had to do that 3 fucking times. Okay. I had to spend a weekend in juvenile. Okay. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, shitting myself because I'm a little white kid from a white neighborhood. I was not meant to be in that place.
Yeah.
And I do the Scared Straight thing fucking 3 times. It was like and all the community service hours. I had no summer for like 3 years because I had to do all those community service hours. So, you know, and then my dad had to eat all that money. I mean, I didn't have the money at the time. So my dad had to pay all that, you know, it was a really bad time. I mean, really, especially because I was supposed to be like, you know, Mr. Athlete over here, scholarships. And then I just blew it all because of that stupid thing I wanted to do.
In a way, I guess bodybuilding sort of could have saved you because another person in your situation that got expelled and got all that and spent time in juvenile hall could have or not juvenile hall. What is it called? I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Yeah, I know exactly. Juvenile, whatever it is.
After that, so many people would have gone into something criminal because they can't make money, they can't go to school, everything's against them. But you went hardcore into bodybuilding at 16.
I was already bodybuilding though, 15. So I was already. I've had him on my podcast. A guy named Mike Dolce. He coaches a lot of UFC. He graduated my sister, so Mike was already coaching me at the time for track and field for all my scholarships. He was like my strength and conditioning coach, and you know, he had big plans for me too. He thought I was going to like be the shit for him, you know, and he just started coaching at the time and nutritionist and stuff. And then he left to go be a professional UFC fighter, like right after all that, like literally right after all that. And I worked at the same gym and he would train at that gym for powerlifting, but that's another story. But so I had to go find it. My parents like, you have to get a job. And I was like, no problem. I'll get a job at the gym. So I worked the overnight shifts because gym was 24 hours. I would work from 11 to 7 at night, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then I would wash cars from 10 a.m. to 4 during the day at the car lot, the used car lot. So like I was obsessed with cars and I loved lifting. So I was like, I'm just going to work at those two jobs. And that's how it all started. I sold cars my whole life too. That's how it all started.
Now, one brief question. You were already 6'1" at that time when you were 15 or 16?
Yeah. So freshman year, sophomore year, I was 5'6". Okay. I was 5'6" and a thick 180, 175. And then I sprouted literally, you know what Osgood Schlatters is?
No.
In your knees, when your knees have like double knees from growing too fast.
Wow.
So I was like crippled for like 3 months because my body grew. I literally grew 6 inches, 7 inches in 1 year, bro. It was the weirdest thing. And I went to my doctor because I literally would wake up in the excruciating pain every day. And he's like, it's Osgood Schlatters. I was like, come on, dude. I'm like, even at the time I was like, that can't be it. And then literally it was that. But once I hit my growth spurt and I was good, it went away. But yeah, so I was 170 at 6'1". I was a fucking rail. So I went from like, my dad's a thick 5'10" guy. So I was like a thick 170, 5'6", and I went to this skinny rail in like literally almost less than a year. It was weird. I grew so much. And yeah, I went from
again once you took hormones.
That was literally the last time I grew. I never grew again. I mean, my hands and feet and my head grew from all the drugs I did, but not my height.
I want to ask about that too. Okay, so were you quickly having potential in bodybuilding? Because by the age of 17 or so, you were really immersed in it. We're not going to go too much into your bodybuilding career, just briefly.
It's fine. I don't care. That's fine.
Nick, no, because you talked about it, but I just want the audience to know Nick was one of the, the prodigal sons of bodybuilding. People thought that he was going to be huge in bodybuilding. He did amazing in his first pro shows. And he won the pro despite great competition. So you had an amazing early career there. But when you were 16, 17, was that already building up?
So I knew I had something because my first steroid was Wintrol. I talk about this too. For track and field, I just wanted to use something to get faster, you know, my agility, my acceleration, my endurance. I was taking Wintrol. So it wasn't making me bigger or anything. It was making me stronger, faster, that type of more explosive. But then when I did my first cycle at 15, right after I got kicked out school, I did DECA by itself, literally just shitloads of DECA, which was the worst thing you could possibly do to yourself. And I put on I'm not even exaggerating, 50 pounds of muscle. Like I literally in 6 months, I was 50 pounds, I was like 230, 240. And I was lean, dude. Like I had abs and I was just like, it was a soft lean. You know what I mean? Like when you first put on that muscle and it's like, there's no definition or anything. It's just round and full looking. And everyone's like, dude, how old are you? 21? And I was like, no, I'm fucking 16. And at the gym, Rich Gaspari's there, Victor Martinez, Jason Arntz. There's a lot of like national level guys there. It was a pretty hardcore gym. I mean, it's called Jersey Shore Fitness Shop. If you look it up, it's brick walls, garage doors, 24 hours, no air conditioning. It's fucking hardcore. And that was the gym to go to. So I would see all these guys train because they would come in at like 5 a.m, 3 a.m. And I would talk to Victor Martinez, not knowing these guys are who they are. Rich Gaspari, like it was a normal conversation. I'd clean up their weights and I'm like, oh, it's Rich Gaspari, It's another guy in the gym to me. And that's when I really started to look into bodybuilding because I saw them and I was just like, I want to be fucking jacked. Like that's alpha, like it wasn't no obsession in the magazine that taught me. Me seeing in the flesh and how they trained, how aggressive it was and intense it was. Like I got addicted to that, And my friend Victor, he's straight off the boat from Italy, competitive bodybuilder, never wanted to be like a pro bodybuilder, just loved being jacked and like looking good and did this eyebrow, you know, real Jersey Shore guy, but real Guido, like genuine, speaks fluent Italian off the boat, and very, very educated in the whole world, you know, of steroids and everything. And from California originally. So he was like my mentor of like, this is what you got to do. This is how you have to train. This is how you have to do things, you know? And he took me under his belt after I fucked myself up with that DECA cycle. And that's when I realized like, fuck, like I'm like 240 at 16 at the time. Did my show when I was on my 17th birthday, my first one. And I was like, okay, I think I got something here. I wasn't like shredded or anything, but I was a big kid with a frame, you know? So those were the first, like, you know, light at the end of the tunnel type of thing. Like, I think I can do this, you know, and I like it. So the obsession started right after that.
You mentioned something interesting, which is that the head grows sometimes from growth hormone.
Oh, feet, hands grow, everything.
Grow a lot, yeah. I've mentioned this to people before. I think some people don't realize that the head really grows. You mentioned on your channel before that you wear the biggest hat size and stuff like that.
Barry Bonds.
Did you ever notice that the shape of your head changes also?
Yeah, I have this and these, whatever they're called. I don't even know the name of them.
Yeah.
If I show you, I'll find the photo what my head used to look like. You'll be like if you look at Jay Cutler, I'm not making fun of Jay Cutler's head, but his head is not even. It looks like a dinosaur almost. His jaw. Like if you look at Jay's old photos, he almost had a face like you. It was just square, normal. Now he has this like. It got a little weird, you know, and
down here, and then he has 4 bumps. You only have 1, but he has 4.
I have this big one right here, and then I got these 2 things that these muscles definitely grow from chewing. I think from chewing. When I was like really juiced, these would be like, you would see like this and then go in. It was huge.
People and believe that. I mention it all the time. I want to see you.
But even like your skull though, like my head, I'm telling you, was over at 8. I came to buy a hat and lids. Like, you go to a lid store, buy a hat?
Yeah.
Nothing fits.
Yeah.
It's a custom hat.
People sometimes get bumps in the back often. And then that's why a lot of people don't realize some people don't want to shave their head when they're going bald.
No,
the head shape is,
I have this thing back here too, the little nub. That I got. My feet were 11 and 10. I mean, I'm telling you, for a long time. And all of a sudden, now they're 15, dude. I have a 15 size foot, okay? Like maybe 14 in some stuff, but 15 is genuinely what I wear.
And they get flatter too. And the toes grow more than the foot. Did you
My foot's wide. I have a wide foot. It looks like a monkey foot. I'm not even kidding. It's flat and square. It looks like that. Like there's no shape to it. It's a fucking weird looking foot now, you know, and I never had, my foot was always, I still had shoes at the time that were 10, 11 for so long because my foot didn't grow. And all of a sudden it was like, this is later in life too. This is after years of doing it, but my shit grew. My hands, gloves, no way. Now they're actually coming back to a little normal now, which is weird because I haven't been on growth and stuff in a long time, but they're getting normal now. Like it's weird. They're regressing. My feet haven't though, but the bones are solidified there, and my head's solidified, but 100%. If like, listen, I started growth at 17. So I did it till I was 30, 31, 30, you know, I didn't stop growth that long ago. I only stopped it for a little bit because I was like, you know, I was trying to drop weight and being on that wasn't going to drop weight, but, you know, 17, 18 years of, I mean, consistent too. Like I didn't fucking miss a beat with a growth shot. Wow. Yeah, I didn't come off it. So
yeah, I have friends in LA because I live near LA now. I just moved outside LA, which I think we should talk about next. But I have friends in LA who like at Golds and stuff like that who take a lot of. They used to take growth hormone when the AIDS patients would have extra growth hormone, they would give it to you for cheap.
That's where I used to get them from. Yeah.
Really?
In LA, yeah. I used to train people at the Golds in Hollywood, the West Hollywood gym, and the gay guys would have it because of their scripts, and they get it for $60 with their insurance. A whole Serostem kit, which is $600 even right now on the street, and I would get them for $200, and I would like a rat. I would stash all that shit forever, you know. But yeah, they get the best stuff.
That's why it's good to have gay friends when you're bodybuilding.
Yeah, I trained them all in the gym. It was awesome. I mean, they were honestly, they were the most jacked guys in the gym anyway. They're fucking huge.
In
They all
West
could have.
Hollywood, especially, that's true.
They
Yeah,
could have won any show. I mean, that's where I met Rich Piana, because Rich was doing that at the time. He was training people every day.
exactly.
And
That's who I'm actually. The guy I'm thinking of is a friend of Rich's, actually, who was taking.
oh, okay, I probably
His
know
head
him.
is huge. Like
Yeah, Rich. When I first met Rich in 2009 or 8, he looked like me, like a normal 6-foot white Italian dude. Normal, like no implants, no nothing yet. Like just, I mean, he was jacked. He was like placing in the USAs at the time, like top 5, top 3. He could have had his pro card. He just didn't. He didn't keep going. You know what I mean? And he got fed up earlier than I did. But he was a really good looking guy, and the gay guys loved him. He would go in there, bro, and be booked from like 7 a.m. to 7 o'clock at night. And I mean, 3-4 guys at a time training them, making like probably 10, 15 grand a week on personal training. Like, I'm not joking. He was booked all fucking day. And that's where I got the idea from. I was like, I'm going to go train people there. Fuck that. Like, and I did. And that's how I met Rich. But like, he worked his ass off at the time when he was, personal trainer. I mean, he killed it, bro. He would pull his Bentley up on the front of the curb and just leave it there, get tickets all day. He'd walk out, laugh at the cops. Like, he didn't give a fuck. Like, he was rolling in money, and God knows what else he was doing. But training, he worked hard. I mean, he did. He was there all day.
one of the things I'm surprised he trained people so much, because one of the things I learned from knowing mutual friends and stuff like that is now these past is that he was a legendary character in the steroid community in California, without going into too much detail. But he was
that too. So he had all them, and then that.
Yeah.
That's how I met him, because of that. And I mean, he made his money that way. So his training, though, he'd be like this, like his cell phone. He'd be like 5 sets, 20 reps. You'd be like, Rich, how am I doing? He'd be like, good, you look good. And he'd be like, next. And then the next people will come in. They're like, hey, Rich. They're all like excited to talk to him. It was hysterical. Or he'd be screaming at them on the top of his lungs. Like, it was funny to watch. He was a good character, though, man. He was a unique individual. He changed a lot, though, but he was still who he was. He was a good dude.
Yeah, I heard from people that he changed a lot also. Like toward the end, people were getting different vibes.
I mean, I think like we're going to talk about the addiction thing. I think
exactly
that was, that was probably his downfall. He wasn't, he was around it too much, like you said. So
yeah,
it's easily accessible.
And you're not totally yourself in those times. You're not really present. So it's hard to hold people accountable for that kind of thing, because they're not that's not themselves.
No.
So before we get to that, California, I know there were reasons that you left California. Unfortunately, your father got sick, and there were things like that and you missed your family and stuff. But how did you like California? I've been living here for 6 years, and I don't have the best of opinions.
So, I mean, not to sound like, like a dick, but like I stayed there because of the weather. I didn't really care for the environment or the people, the lifestyle. Like, nobody worked. It was a very weird. I didn't feel like I fit in, because I was like, oh, I have to go to work now, and everyone else is still at the gym. Like, you go to Gold's Gym in Venice, and I lived in Marina del Rey, which was like 5 minutes from the gym, and 2:00 in the afternoon, it's packed. Like, it's peak hours, and I'm like, I didn't understand where everyone's doing for a living or how they make money, and that frustrated me, because I'm like, I'm busting my ass as a personal trainer, doing all my side shit to make my ends meet in LA for what? I don't fit in here. Like, you know what I mean? I don't have old money or family money or, trust fund babies, and like, or just to be able to work out all day. Like, most of the guys there would go work out in the morning. They would go eat lunch in the grass across the street, come back, work out again, and then hang out with their friends at the gym, go home and do it all over again. They do that 7 days a week at Gold Venice. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. And they would shower there and then go back and work out again. I'm like, Jesus Christ, does anyone have a life? Even the personal trainers there, like besides Tito Raymond, who like, he trains a lot of fucking people in that place. And there's a couple other guys now, but like they work their asses off like East Coast people, because they're from the East Coast. But there's very few people like that have that mentality. Like, I got to work. Cause most people are like waiters, bartenders, like security for something, they're not like plumbers and electricians, and they're not a trade. You don't never meet a plumber in the gym. It's very rare. It's weird. And I'm sure they're there, but not in that environment that I wanted to be around. So to me, it would piss me off. I would like go home angry at night. Like, why do I have to work so fucking hard? And these people are like probably living paycheck to paycheck, probably have no money, but they're totally happy with, doing yoga at 2:00 on a Tuesday in the afternoon and not having any money and not working and just making enough. You know what I mean? That just wasn't me. So I didn't get any motivation out of it, if that's what you're asking. But Charles Glass, I worked out with him for a little bit, and then we had a weird falling out, like most people do with him. He's not all it's cracked up to be. Like, I obviously respect the guy, just not my type of training that I like to do. It's not meant for a 6-foot white guy. It doesn't pertain to me, my body type. Like, I don't have those genetics, He's a little hard-headed, which I get. He's Charles Glass. He has the name, but it'll work for Dexter, stuff like that. And then I tried other coaches, and no one had the same hunger as I did. And at that time, dude, like Ed Connors, I'm sure you know who Ed Connors is, right? Yeah, Ed's the one that brought me out there. So,
oh wow,
I brought the vet.
Everybody, huh?
Yeah, he found me too on Facebook at the time, and he was just a random old man messaging me, and I'm like, who is this? And at the time, I was like very aware of the creeps because of my past. So I was like, all right, let me feel this guy out, And then he like hit up my mom, hit up my dad, and like I was like, all right, is he creepy or is he just being respectful, And then I had to like reach out to like Craig Goliath and people I knew at the time that knew him, that were, comfortable talking about who he was. And I was like, okay, I could trust him now. And then he brought me out there for a weekend to Vegas at the time when he was living there. And I stayed in Frank Sinatra's house. He owned Frank Sinatra's house in Vegas. Yeah. And I stayed there for like a week with him. And with Frank McGrath, I think, came out that weekend. Ben Mikulski came out that weekend. A bunch of pros came out that weekend. So I was like, all right, this is fucking cool. Like, I want to do this. And I went home, told my parents I'm fucking out. I rented my apartment to my friend. I left, and then I went to Vegas with Ed. And that's when I was out there for like 2 years. And then I went to California after that. But Ed's the one that got me out there, though. It wasn't me. So
you mentioned something briefly, which is an interesting subject. So, excuse me. You mentioned that like the older creepy guys in bodybuilding. So we won't go in. I mean, everybody knows that there's that incident that you've talked about on Dave's show. Yeah. Totally respectable, and you're very upfront and honest about it. But I'm curious about bodybuilding in general, because a lot of people don't realize that it's difficult to make ends meet when you're bodybuilding, and there's a lot of easy money. And you don't, it's not like you're selling your soul completely. They ask for small things. They bring you in slowly.
There's a line that you either you cross or you don't cross, And for a while I wasn't crossing it. I was just doing my thing and doing what I was comfortable with. But at the time I was selling cars and living way outside my means. I was living on my own because I moved out I don't know if I told you that, but you probably heard it, but I moved out after the whole high school incident. So 16, I was out living with my friend Victor, who I told you about, living on his couch until I got on my feet, washing cars. I had enough money. I got my apartment. It was this ghetto-ass studio above a mechanic shop in Neptune, New Jersey. If you look up Neptune, you'll see, I don't know if you know of Asbury Park in New Jersey either. Ever heard of that?
Yeah, I have.
It's just as bad as Asbury Park. So it was like the ghetto of ghetto, okay? But I was good because I sold cars in the ghetto, the used cars, and they all knew me because I was the car guy, okay? I was Nick the car guy. And they all respected who I was. So I was fine living there, but it was ghetto, bro. I mean, it was horrible. You would never live there. And I'm not saying I'm like hard ass because I lived there. I hated every second of it. I slept with my eyes open every day because I was scared. And but that's where I lived in. That's my upbringing. So I wanted flashy shit though. Like I was spending money on sneakers and clothes and watches and jewelry and cars, and every paycheck I got from the car lot was spent already. Like I owed someone money, or I had to pay a credit card, or I lived way beyond my means. So long story short, I met this guy named AJ DiCaprio. You can Google his name. And I was doing shoots for him at the time, normal stuff, like regular fitness stuff. The time DVDs were big. So I made a bunch of DVDs for like abs and legs and arms, and I was selling DVDs. That's how I made money back then. And then he was like, I can start hustling you to these wealthy men that just want to see you work out with your shirt off. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I'll fucking do it all day long. How much? He's like, 1,000 for this, 500 for that. And I was like, I'm in, sign me up. Fuck these DVDs. Like, So that's what I started doing. It was personal training and training with your shirt off with these guys. And they go to their fucking personal gym in their house, in their mansion, or in their private gym somewhere. And you would train them, but you would be in a tank top or like short shorts or whatever. And I was like, this is the most easiest money ever. And I'm getting $500 per workout. You know what I mean? I'm making thousands of dollars, and I'm a very young kid. So it's a lot of money, dude. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this money. So long story short, then he set me up really good. He antes it up. He's like, well, that guy wants to see you flex afterwards and just your banana hammock, your posing trunks. And I'm like, oh, I could pose and just, I'll use it for my shit, whatever. I don't care. And then he antes you up more. Well, would you go this far? Would you go that far? Would you go this far? And then I became money hungry. Then it was like, I was like, I don't want to say I was doing drugs then, but I started to think about it. I was like, well, if I just get numb, because I know if I smoke a blunt or take a pill, I can just do it mindlessly and not even like, I'm not even there technically, you know, like I was tricking myself into doing it. And that's what it became. I was like, just doing that to feed that. And that's what that became after a while. Wow. And this is young, dude. I'm not even 21 yet, you know, like, and, you know, and at the time, all I cared about was my bank account. Like that's what was feeding me, was the greed of having more money. I was making plenty of money, just personal training people, like more than any kid probably makes at that age, or adults at this point, you know, and that, now that I realize how much money that was, and I was like, not satisfied. I was like, no, I want this. I want that. I want to buy that. I want to go out here, buy bottles. I want to look like a cool kid. And that's when my life started to spiral for the worst at the time. This is the first spiral. And I realized I have like this addictive personality to like weird shit. Like I have to like one up myself all the time with the car. Like I have to always be doing something. And then I started getting, I don't want to say like spiritual, but I started reading into like, you know, zodiac shit. And it was literally like me to a T, split personality, Gemini, you know, like how I am and everything. And I started really getting into it, and I was like paying attention to it, but I was also enjoying it. Like I got a rise out of everything I was doing. So I wasn't, and I was very open. My friends were like, how are you making this much? And I was like, oh, I do this. I didn't care, dude. Like that's what yeah. I think that's the scary part. I wasn't even thinking that my friends were even going to judge me. And they didn't, because they wanted to be around me because of what I was doing. I was at the clubs underage. I was driving a cool car. I had the apartment to party at. You know, I was like the ticket for them to escape their parents' house at 18, 19, 20 years old, you know? So there's...
And that's always true. If you have the money, you won't hear no from your friend. You know,
no, they're like...
Yeah.
Atlantic City, New York. Yeah, Nick's got the tab, you know.
People just compliment you and flatter you and talk.
Oh man, I fell right into it, dude. Fell right in. That was what happened. And I never really talked about that, but that was the first downward spiral of realizing like I have to be careful who my friends are, that type of thing. But I still didn't learn my lesson because I did it again later on. But that was the first eye opener of it. And that's really why I wanted to leave, because I was so embarrassed of. So that video got out of me that I did because of MySpace. So I don't know if it was him that got pissed off or someone else that found it, and they spammed my MySpace with it. Whoa. They sent it to everyone on my friends list. And I had a couple thousand people on my MySpace at the time, because I was like muscular development popular. You know, I was getting to be something on the forums at the time with bodybuilding. I did a guest posing, and it got really popular at like a Gold Classic show. So they spammed my MySpace and spammed the muscular development forums. RX Muscle might have been around, but like Get Big, all those forums had the video. Someone spammed it everywhere. And it wasn't a free video. It was a paid video. Mm. And that was the dagger in my heart that like was like, oh, my self-esteem went to like, I mean, I came home to my girl. At the time I was living with my girlfriend. She trashed the place, left me, took my dogs. It was a nightmare, dude. And that was when I was like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here anymore. And that was, Ed came into my life at the same time, and Ed didn't even know about it. It was really weird how Ed came into my life. I'm not saying he's like an angel or anything, but this opportunity just came about at the right time. And I was like, I'm fucking out. Like, you know, my parents knew. My parents got it in their emails, dude. My sister's husband's family. It was like,
God, this guy wanted to destroy your life.
Yeah, he wanted to like go, because I stopped doing it. I was like, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. I did it like 3 times. I was like, I'm done. you know, and I kept doing the personal training, and I could tell he was like, well, there's money leaving on it, because he was getting a percentage, obviously. He's like, well, there's money on the table. You're leaving money on the table. And I was like, well, I don't want to do it anymore, because I was getting high too much. And then I was going there too much, doing that weird shit too much. And I was coming home and I'm like, I can't even sleep. You know, I wasn't comfortable with it.
Okay, two questions. One, briefly, how common do you think it is among rising stars in bodybuilding? Like, what would you say percentage?
90%.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Something like
almost.
Really
I guarantee most of everybody probably did it once, especially nowadays with webcam. Okay, because I used to do the webcam thing with Ulrich too. I don't know if you know who Ulrich is. He has his own Ulrich Ullman. He's a photographer.
Oh, okay.
He has a muscle cam site. It's just literally just straight up talking to people with your shirt off. It's literally all it is, and you get paid. And I used to do that at the time too. But I guarantee every single guy is taking $1 from somewhere. Especially, I get bugged every day on Instagram every single day. And so you're telling me some guys aren't going to turn around 100 here, 100 there, just to like send a photo or something nowadays?
Exactly, because if it starts so like it's just posing, you're already posing on stage, and it's a huge payout.
They put naked photos on Instagram anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
They're naked.
It's true. People are not wearing underwears and blurring out stuff.
I'm like, you guys are just as bad, you know?
Unless you're like really homophobic or you hate gay people, you're not going to be that. You're not going to think much of it.
No, you're not going to judge. Yeah.
Now, when you got into the party lifestyle that first time, when did it go beyond? So there's elements to partying, right? There's going out and seeing girls and having your ego up because you paid for the table. Everyone's coming up.
That's what that was.
Yeah, you get the attention, you get all that. But then maybe there's an element in you that's drinking a little bit more than other people, or you're keeping yourself a little bit numb, or you start to do it more and you get a little bit addicted. Did that happen yet? Or
I wasn't
more ego partying?
I hated liquor because it just destroyed the way I looked. I didn't like the way it felt. So I would literally grab a drink and hold it all night. But I would put drugs in my drink. Like that's the way I would put G or something, Molly or ecstasy. And that was my way of like, I was pretending like I was drinking to fit in, but I was getting high and no one knew that. At that time in my life, my friends were like Marines and like hardcore, like you do a drug, we'll punch you in the face, we'll break your jaw. Cause like you could drink, but you're not doing drugs. You're fucking 18, you're 19 years old, you know? So I would just hide it. But I would only do it maybe once a month, twice a month, or when I had to go do like one of those things, I would get a little fucked up and just feel good and kind of like block it out that way.
Or Molly or what? If you had
yeah, like whatever. I hated uppers like Coke and stuff, but like I would do a little bit of Molly or a little bit of G. G was very popular at the time back then. I mean, it still is, but back then you could buy it in the store. I mean, it was in GNC at the time. The G you used to buy the little. It was like a 5-hour energy bottle. And I would bring it out and pour it in my drink. I would get high on it. So like it was legal at the time until they banned it. And then I used to get on the street too. But like that was my coping mechanism at the time to, you know, and my friends didn't know. So it was a very hard sneak. You know, I had to do it all the time behind their backs. But the ego and the craziness got later in life.
Okay. So well, tell me about the later part. When did that happen? How did it progress? Like, moving from this stage to you moved to California, you moved to Vegas.
I was an angel in California and Vegas. I was bodybuilder junkie. Like I was sleeping 10, 12 hours a day. I was working out. Like I wouldn't miss a meal after a minute after it. I was like a lunatic obsessed. Cause now I had opportunities. No one knows this really, but I was signed before I even competed with Muscular Development and Muscle Meds. I had a full blown money contract before I even competed. And I'm 21 years old at the time, you know? Yeah. And it was unheard of. I got signed because someone saw me in a video in a gym. At that gym I told you about, a guy named Rodney Roller. I don't know if you remember who Rodney Roller is. Look up Rodney Roller. He was a pro bodybuilder. He worked for Muscular Development. He was in there working out at like 3 a.m. one night and saw me working out. And he's like, what are you doing, bro? He's like, who are you? And I'm like, you know, I'm Nick. Hi. You know? He's like, what show are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing Atlantic States next year. He's like, what? Next year? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, do you have a sponsorship? And at the time, you got a sponsor, bro. It was like the red carpet gets rolled out, you know? He's like, I'm going to bring you up to Muscle Meds. I'm like, and Kai Green just got signed with Muscle Meds at the time. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Or do you just pull my chain? Like, this is something I have like a storybook setting, you know? He's like, I guarantee I call you tomorrow and Gerard Dente will call you. And I was like, all right. He goes, let me get some shots of you. I'm like, all right. And he had his camera. He had like this video recorder or whatever. He was recording something for Muscular Development. Next morning, Gerard Dente calls me. He's like, can you come up to the office? And I'm like, fuck yeah. Called Steve Blackman. Steve Blackman signed me. He signed me right there. I got $1,000 a month from each of them. I was making $2,000 a month off the rip, okay, to get ready for my first show. And then I had a what do you call it? A thing in my contract where whatever happened at that first show, it would, obviously change or whatever. I would lose money or get more money, whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So all the motivation in the world came from that. So now I'm in California training. I'm getting the best workouts of my life, training with Chris Cormier, Charles Glass, Jerome Ferguson's out there at the time. He's big time. Everybody was there. Dexter was there. Everybody was there. It was still had a nice buzz to it. So I'm all bodybuilding. And then my dad got sick before, oh God, this is before 2012. He gets sick. Yes. USA's my first year was 2012. I end up taking second behind Stephen Frazier, my first pro qualifier. We fast forward over the other shows, doesn't matter. And then I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I needed gyno surgery. So I flew home to my doctor that Gerard Dente knew. It was his friend, got my surgery covered by the Muscle Meds, didn't pay $1. Recovered, was getting ready for nationals in 2013 back in California. Fucked up my tricep with a shot. I talked about that. Yeah. Pulled out a week out.
Crazy story. It's in the Palumbo interview if anyone wants
to. Lost my MD contract, kept Muscle Meds. I was tied down to Muscle Meds. Then Flex Magazine picked me up. I got ready for 2014 USA's in California. Loving life. Everything's good. It was one of the best preps. Wasn't partying yet. End up winning my pro card there. Got all this extra money now. Now, like, I'm making like legit good money, like livable money, over $100,000 for bodybuilder at the time, because I won my pro card. I won the overall. There was like clauses in my contract. If you win this, you get an extra this, you get a percentage of that, or you get a bonus. And then they double whatever you got from the other magazine or whatever. Then I got my spread. The partying started right after that, though. I partied for like 2 weeks after Vegas, after I won. And that was like the tipping point. Like, that was like, oh, wow, I missed this. I'm turned pro now. I can relax. Yeah, and that's...
Which is really, let's put some context. Basically, you had the life at that point that I guess every other young bodybuilder in the U.S. wanted to have. You have the best contracts from the most brand name places that nobody
Spreads were at magazines at the time. I was every ad. So it was, for me, it was crazy.
Exactly. Very interesting. So
I'm signing autographs and I'm like, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm a very humble person. I never thought I was like, and this is how I treated people. I was just laugh at them. Like, why you want a photo of me, dude? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm going and I'm traveling with Kai Green all over the place, mind you, during this time, doing workouts, videos, photo shoots with him. Victor Martinez with MHP. I'm seeing him all the time now, who I saw when I was like 15 years old, little Nick doing nothing in the gym, So like, shit's just like, I don't want to say like,
you made it. You, in your mind, you made it.
You know how people say that cheesy thing, like I visualized it? Like, no, I didn't visualize that shit. It just happened. Like, I literally I hit fast forward and I was there. It went so fast. And then, like, I was so strict for those years to turn pro that now I'm only 25 years old, mind you, and all this happened. And Muscle Meds has only got a year left. MD has only got like maybe a year left in my contract, but now I got all this money coming in. So I'm like, I don't want to bodybuild anymore. Like, my goal was just to turn pro. And I said, I'm giving myself 10 years. Those are things actually I wrote down. I was like, I don't want to kill myself past that because I know how hard I was going to even get to that point. I was like, what's after bodybuilding anyway? What am I going to do with it? Like, I know I'm not going to be like Mr. Olympia. Like, I'm a 6'1" white dude. I just knew it just, I probably could have done well. I probably could definitely place in Olympia, but not me. I just wanted to win. I was obsessed with winning. Like I told you earlier, I was very competitive. And like, if I didn't win, I was a dick. I had no fucking, what do you call it?
You didn't want to be
sportsmanship. I had no sportsmanship at all. Like I was stingy as fuck if I lost. I wouldn't treat somebody like that. But inside I was like, fuck, man. Like I would be very hard on myself, especially that year I missed. So, like now I have, 6 figures coming in. I have to go home to New Jersey because my dad's sick now, you know. Now it's like I have to go home, and I'm a little upset. I'm a little salty. So I tried to not move home at first. I tried to be 6 months in California, 6 months in New Jersey. He was not getting well at the time. Thank God he's fine, but he was not getting well at the time. And I'm like, I'm being so selfish right now. I have to go home. So I packed up and left California, and I had to move back to my parents' house. And this was like probably the worst scenario you could possibly imagine, me being home because I don't get along with my parents at the time. Like we're best friends, but I can't live under their roof. Like they drive me nuts. So I immediately found an apartment, but that's when the drugs started really bad. And listen, I was not like some heroin addict, drug addict. I looked like a bodybuilder 24/7, but I was partying. I would start Friday and end Monday. You know what I mean? It was a 4-day or extravaganza.
Well, let's just be clear. Like, it's just for people who don't use drugs who are listening to this. And
Yeah.
think, yeah, that's unusual. That's not unusual. First of all, in bodybuilding, it's not unusual. I've never been into bodybuilding. I've met a lot of bodybuilders who are opiate addicts specifically. And this is in all industries. Like, I lived in LA for a long time. I know some people in Hollywood. You'd be surprised how many people do cocaine every single day that are top people in Hollywood. Every single day.
Every single day.
Every single day, all year round. The people that have the most money tend to do the most cocaine. It's not that it's uncommon, especially when people succeed. But, you know, so we're not putting it in a bad light or something like that. But do you feel like you had like a negative energy about you because of what happened with that when they try to expose you or do that kind of crap to you? Did you have like a kind of
I can tell part of this story that I never told. Now, I'm not trying to make this sound exciting because it's on your channel, but something happened at USA's which gave me a really bad taste in my mouth about bodybuilding, which was the reason that pushed me over to not want to compete anymore, even though I did. At the time, there was a competitor. I'm not going to say what place because they'll give away everything, but I'll tell you off camera the real story. But because we're really close friends now, and I don't want to do that to them. There was a guy in the show, okay? Pretend he was close to me, okay? And his coach knew what I did back when I was 15, 16, 17 years old with that video. They brought up their phone at the judging at the night show, okay, and said, look, this is going to be your USA champion. Is that who you want to be your USA champion? And I swear on my mother this happened because I have every coach, Farah, Fakri, Chad Nichols, Maz, fucking Steve Weinberger, Jim Mannion, Tyler Mannion. Everyone saw this happen. He threw his phone on the judging table and walked away, this guy, to make me look bad and was like, you can't have Mr. USA like that. And they all threw the phone to the side and were like, fuck you. Like, why would you do that right here? And I'm watching this go down, bro, on stage, standing there like in my front relax pose. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Everyone's looking at each other. It's awkwardly quiet. And they're like, we're gonna do a rejudge for the night show. And I'm like, what? They're gonna rejudge? I knew I had a perfect score, mind you. Okay. George Farah told me I had a perfect score. They all told me you won hands down. There's not even a question. So they do a rejudge because this guy wanted to do a rejudge. And he's like, it's not fair. Give my guys a better look. So they did a rejudge. They did like 3 poses and they're like, all right, get back in line. And I'm like, my heart rate's like, am I going to fucking lose right now? Like, this is for the super heavyweight title. This is not even for the overall. And I'm like, if I lose, bro, I'm going to jump off this stage and like drop kick everybody. You know, like I'm thinking like the worst shit. So I end up winning, thank God. But I walked off stage and somebody welcomed me and was like, don't say anything. Like, let it go. But just remember who that was and remember that, like, that guy's not your friend. You know, and he was at the time, he was a very close friend of mine.
And that was years before the world we live in now, which is interesting. Like, let's talk about this a bit, because now we live in a time where it seems like in the US, especially in California where I live, but I guess across the US, especially online, any mistake you've ever made in your past you're held to that standard.
Everything.
Like the worst day of your life, if anyone can record it or even tell a story about it, that's who you are forever, which is just completely, debilitating. It means, if somebody can find something on you, that's who you are. The worst thing you ever did, you ever beat up someone, you ever got angry somewhere, you ever, whatever you did, that's what they hold you to. And you experienced this, I guess, before the rest of America started experiencing, where now people look for people's tweets 10 years before. And
that bothers me a lot that happens. It drives me nuts.
To you, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. At the time, it was still, almost 10 years ago still. now it's fucking almost 20 years ago, you know, some people still talk about it. I laugh. I'm just like, dude, I've talked about this openly. Since I've talked about it openly a couple times now, it's gotten a lot less, but people still like to bring it up. And I just laugh. And I'm just like, dude, I know what I did. I fully accept it. I own it. Like, it doesn't bother me. I could care less. Like, it's taught me so much more than you ever realize. So it doesn't matter.
That's trashy behavior from people.
Yeah, it's so immature. It's
if people can't, first of all, it's no one's business to decide how a person makes their money, whether it's bad or good or whatever. But second of all, you got to believe in the human spirit to change. If you hold someone to the worst, then that means that all of us, because there's nobody in the world that hasn't done something that they regret.
And I always tell people, I'm like, I didn't harm anybody. If anything, I harmed myself. I hurt my own image, if you want to call it that. I didn't rob anybody, beat anybody up, stab anybody, go after anybody. I didn't talk shit about people. I just minded my own business, trying to pay my bills, you know, and feed my greed problem I had at the time, you know, like I wasn't out hurting anybody, you know, and it's just so weird that like people want to use that as like paint me as a bad person. I'm like, okay, if that's the worst you got, okay, I'm fine with it, you know?
Well, honestly, whenever someone does that, it shows the character of that person is just trying to put someone else down, either strategically or because they feel bad themselves. But that's, to me, in my opinion, whenever someone brings something up about someone 5 years or 10 years ago, so what are you doing? Why are you trying to what are you doing? You don't believe in the human spirit to change?
Yeah.
You have to change. Yeah, and even if you didn't change, that's not even, like I said, like you said, you're not even hurting somebody. That's just, you know what I mean? Anyway, whatever. That's like
it drives me nuts. It
drives me nuts.
Especially because like I didn't see myself as a leader, but I was like, hey guys, like I'm not saying I'm making it possible for you, but like, look, I did it. I got sponsored. I wasn't trying to get sponsored, and I did. You know, it does happen. Like that's a real thing. You know what I mean? It happened by accident. The whole thing. I was in the right place at the right time. It's luck. You know.
So what happened then when you say you moved back to your parents' place, and this is where because just for the audience to know, one of the things I asked Nick to talk about today is I've seen that I've been watching Nick on and off since he came on YouTube. I watched a lot of his earlier videos, then I stopped watching YouTube for about a year and I didn't see his stuff for a little while. Then I saw his recent videos a couple of months ago and I was shocked. Somehow there was a difference in the way he was speaking and I didn't know, I couldn't place it at the start. Then I started looking more carefully and I was like, wait a minute, this guy is completely sober. And I didn't see your video where you talked about getting sober or anything like that.
Yeah.
I originally didn't even know that you weren't sober, but then I knew some people in bodybuilding and I heard that you're on opiates or something like that.
Yeah.
Prescription opiates or something like that. But when I saw your video, as a person that knows many addicts that recovered, I saw in your face, I was like, whoa, this guy is completely sober. This is really unusual.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring you on the show just because I'm so amazed. But to get to that, we got to talk about how you became not sober in the first place.
Well, I can tell you what started it was a lot of injuries. I mean, like when I see Ronnie Coleman's videos, not to bring him up because this has nothing to do with him, but it's painful because I remember, because like you're teetering, do I live in pain or do I live, you know, recklessly with these pills in me every day or Xanax or Oxycontin or Percocets, whatever you're doing to make ends meet just to get through your day, you know, like which one is it? Like, who am I making happy? You know, am I happy? You know? And then what happens is it starts cycling, you know, it's spiraling out of control because then you're like, oh, fuck it. I'm going to get high because I'm uncomfortable anyway. So why can't I just take an extra one and feel good and be out of pain, you know? And that's what it turns into. I never got to the point where I was like, oh, I got to go meet someone in like the ghetto and buy Percocets or whatever, Xanax to live. I had scripts from the doctors and I was just abusing them. That's just all it was. And herniated disc, you know, my shoulder, my fucking pec, my tricep, like I have a bunch of injuries that all add up to be a pain every day, you know, but I was taking the easy road out. I wasn't getting them fixed. I wasn't addressing the problems. I was just training through it. I was not seeking therapy for chiropractor, acupuncture. It was all fixable. I mean, not fixable, but there was things I could do to maintain without being in pain. I wasn't doing it because I was lazy. And, you know, especially when you have scripts coming in every month, you're like, one thing leads to another, and then you become lazy and you stop training, which I did. because I was like, oh, I'm in too much pain. I'm going to start taking more because I'm going to be in more pain. And you start making excuses. I mean, like a lot of people do. You make excuses for yourself. And that just spirals out of control. And then you realize like you're not the same person. Me and my girlfriend were fighting all the time. I was sleeping probably 20 hours a day, you know, like I would work I was up, but I was not, you know what I mean? Like I would nod out and fall asleep, nod out, fall asleep. And I was doing my job. I was still making money, but like, it wasn't like breaking records or doing anything passionately. There was like, you know, it was just doing it. I was like just a machine, you know? And I started becoming very disconnected to, you know, not to sound spiritual, but like who I was, and it wasn't myself anymore. And a lot of anger, you know, because I was frustrated. You know what the weird part is, dude? I wasn't thinking I was addicted. I was just sick of feeling the way I was. Like, I was like, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the way because I knew I was acting like a piece of shit and a dick.
Yeah, you can't control it. You become
someone. But I literally would do it, and like 5 minutes later, I'm like, fuck it, I just did that. Like, I literally would like hit me as soon as I did it, and I'm like, I can't retract now. Like, I did it, you know, or I said it. Temper was getting bad. Then my eating fell off, and then I had a lot of, and then things started to tumble. And I think it was like whoever it is up there watching over me, like trying to smack me out of it. Cause he was like, he kept giving me more shit wrong with me, like my glucose and my pancreas, my kidney, my liver. And then like all these things started to spiral out of control. And I was like, I remember sitting in my bathroom. I talked about this before after New Year's, and I was over 350 pounds. And I was like, now, mind you, I was getting off the drugs anyway. I was pretty good, but my body and everything else was a fucking wreck from all that now, you know? And I'll talk about why I got off, but like, this was like my real, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, whatever you want to.
Yeah, you have to have a spiritual experience.
I was sitting there and I'm like, I can't fit my clothes. I'm wearing 4 X's, okay? I'm profusely sweating from putting my clothes on. Like, I mean, like, when I tell you I would sweat, dude, like, soak, okay? I don't think anyone really knows what 350 feels like. That's the thing. Like, you don't know what 350, not you, but, like, anybody. And I didn't either. I was only, the heaviest I've ever been was, like, 305, and I was shredded. You know what I mean? I was lean. I felt good. I didn't feel 300 pounds. This was, like, a fat, bloated 350.
Yeah.
And I was, like, my underwear was ripped because it didn't fit. My belt didn't fit. I was trying to go somewhere. And I was, like, I feel like I'm dying. Like, I legit felt like I was dying from the inside out. And I was like, I can't even brush my teeth without being out of breath. Like, it literally was like, I didn't sleep. I would sit up against my bed and put my sleep apnea machine on and just sit there and just, and like maybe fall asleep for an hour here and there. And I would get startled and wake up because my sleep apnea was like beyond even the CPAP machine, you know?
Sorry about that. The German Shepherd got excited. But
someone's
come in front of the. Yeah.
Surprisingly, my dogs are being quiet right now, which is weird. But the reason I got off, though, is because my girlfriend mainly, I mean, I was going to lose her. And she was, you know, she saved me prior to other things. And she's seen me at my worst, obviously, before this. And now this. And like, when I saw her getting frustrated with me and getting sick of me and not wanting to be around me, that hurt me more than anything, because she was, you know, she put up with everything already with bodybuilding and just being my friend and all the fucked up things I've done, and nothing to her. We had the bet. We never fought a day in our life. And that was literally the only time we ever fought was during that time. Yeah. And I knew, I was like, she's going to fucking leave me. Like, regardless of what I am to her or what I do, she can support herself. She has a job. She doesn't need me. She's going to deal with this shit. And just so happens, we just kind of like, we got our place together. Everything was going well too, you know, but my inside of me wasn't, you know, I wasn't mentally there. I was just there. I was just that she called me a body. That's what she used to say. Like, your body's there, but your mind's not. She's like, you're always there, but you're not saying anything. You don't react to things. You don't laugh. You don't make me laugh. She's like, your conversations are always negative. You're always mean. Like, I was mean to my dogs. Like, it was just weird. I just was not myself. And then I had to go through the whole phase of getting off, which actually wasn't that bad, to be honest, because I do have addictive personality, 100%, because that's just how I am. I do something, I get obsessed. But I also get addicted with the other way. Like, I always get determined to get off. And I was like, I'm not letting this ruin everything around me that I always wanted. I always wanted to date her. I always had a crush on her. I always wanted to have my place and my doll. You know what I mean? Like everything was finally coming together because I had my business too before this that we're starting. And I was like, I'm going to lose everything because of this shit, you know, because I can't control myself and get better. So I started seeing acupuncturists. I got a therapist. I went to my chiropractor, who's a very good friend of mine. I started getting, you know, a lot of massage work done and fixing all these problems during the time coming off. So at least the pain was subsiding. I mean, it wasn't gone. It still isn't, but I live with it now. I deal with it, you know. I seek other therapies to deal with the problems and the pain, but the getting off was actually pretty black and white. I used Suboxone to get off. I had a really good therapist.
How long were you on Suboxone?
6 months.
Oh, wow. That withdrawal from Suboxone must be more difficult than the opiates.
So 3 months of hardcore Suboxone, because I was on Percocets and painkillers for a while, dude, a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, like in the beginning, I wasn't taking them all the time, though. So, like, it was just when I needed it, like most people do. And then you're like, I got 30 left this month. Like, it's like Tic Tacs after a while. You don't even, you take 10, 15 pills a day. You don't even realize it. And that's what it became. And then you get scripts, you know, you have 120 pills, you know, 2 different scripts, and, you know, they're just going down. Especially me, I was a fucking 300-pound bodybuilder, you know, and I would take them before the gym to get high. I would fucking do a Xanax to come home to fall asleep. And then I would take a Percocet to wake up. And
it's good you mentioned that, because I was going to mention you had scripts both for benzos and opiates. And the combination of those two is really difficult for many people. Spend their whole life to get off that.
Xanax, you can literally have seizures.
You can die.
Yeah, you die from Xanax. Yes. Yeah.
Was that harder? I mean, I don't know if you still take benzos, but was that, you're clearly not getting high from
I have Xanax script because I do get anxiety once in a while, and I literally have a script for 0.25, which is like, I mean, it's literally nothing. But I have not used them since January. That was my last time I touched Xanax at all. You know, because I don't get anxiety attacks anymore. Everything's I cleared my health out and fixed it, I haven't had an anxiety attack. And like, there's anxiety. I don't know if people notice, but there's anxiety and there's panic attacks. Like, I had a panic attack every single day, multiple times a day, where I'd freeze up. Like, you know, especially the withdrawing process, that was the hardest part because my body was detoxing from that shit. And, you know, it becomes, it's almost like it's hell. I mean, it's hell, you know, even with the Suboxone, it's still hell, you know. It wasn't hard here for me to say I'm getting off pills. It was just hard, the fact that, like, the way I felt. I didn't feel like myself.
Benzo withdrawal may be the worst withdrawal of all.
I didn't feel like I wanted a pill, though. I wasn't craving pills. I was like, I'm craving to get off this. Like, just be done. And then you have to, you know, detox from the Suboxone slowly too. You have to taper off of it very slow. So it was hardcore treatment for 3 months and then tapering off Suboxone for 3 months.
Now, when you got off it, I'm curious, how do you deal with, you say you don't get the anxiety attacks anymore, but I think I've heard you mention you're on a ketogenic diet also, which, by the way, I don't know if you know, but ketogenic diets were created actually for epileptics at Johns Hopkins University. Epileptics are people who get seizures naturally.
Yeah, seizures, yep.
So it's thought that maybe, and this is disputed, it's thought that ketogenic diets may make people increase their GABA signaling. You see, Xanax works on the GABA-A receptor.
Yep.
So it may make people more relaxed. Personally, I always feel way calmer and happier and clear-minded on a ketogenic diet. Did that help a bit? And
so
then you're like me. You take an SSRI or something like that.
Yeah, I'm on Lexapro still.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's
when I was a tranquilized animal, I was on 40 milligrams a day. You know how much that is.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Now I'm only on 10, which is not, I mean, it's literally, you know, but they had me at the time, which the Wellbutrin was causing a lot of anxiety at the time when I was on Wellbutrin.
Wellbutrin inhibits just for the audience to know, it inhibits the reuptake of both dopamine and norepinephrine, which is noradrenaline. So
it combats the sides of the Lexapro, like libido and everything, and the downing of the Lexapro would make you feel like you lose your leg. You're like there's no feeling or emotion. So the Wellbutrin brings that back up.
Yeah. Because serotonin inhibits the serotonin from the SSRI, and sorry to interrupt you, inhibits the dopamine signaling in the brain. So if you use Wellbutrin, you increase the dopamine signaling a little bit to come. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I was taking way too much. I was on like 200 milligrams of Wellbutrin at the time plus the 40 milligrams of Lexapro, plus Xanax, plus Oxycontin, Percocets.
All at the same time.
Oh yeah, all at the same time, dude. Because I was trying to treat my anxiety at the time, but I realized a lot of the anxiety I had was the painkillers. It was a lot of it. A lot of the anxiety was the painkillers. Suboxone gave me a lot of anxiety too, especially in the beginning when I was high dosing it. It made me just, and listen, dude, I was like, I never had anything wrong with my bill of health until this whole, like I destroyed my own health for a little bit, you know, like it was my own fault. It was self-inflicted. This was not from bodybuilding at all. This is from me being a dickhead and not taking care of my health and not eating correctly and not being on top of just hydrating. I was not even drinking water. Like in my, you know, my liver enzymes were all fucked up. My hemoglobin, everything was fucked up just from me not taking care of myself and just letting myself go. And it wasn't because of the steroids or growth hormone, like everyone wants to blame it on. It was because of myself. It was my own personal little journey I went through after bodybuilding, you know. And
so what was the highlight of that? Is it your blood sugar was really messed up mainly, or?
So my kidneys and liver, just regular blood work, comprehensive blood panel was not in depth enough to look at my like real levels of my kidney and liver. I don't even know the name of the test. I'll get you the name of it. Another pro bodybuilder is the one that saved me. I'll tell you off camera who it was, but he had the same issue from just repeated years of not doing cleanses and cleaning himself out and doing health subs and getting away from the normal minerals and vitamins we need every day because of, you know, the diuretics strip you, the drugs strip you, all the food strips you, all that stuff is very acidic on your body. And if you're not taking the correct subs to counteract that, you're going to have problems eventually. So my liver and kidneys weren't even like, on paper, they looked okay, but they were stripped of all the minerals and vitamins and everything. I don't know what it's called, the name of it exactly. Maybe you know, I'm not scientific enough to know, but so basically what happened is my absorption was terrible. So like my body would process glucose, like it would digest it and not even absorb it. And it was blowing through glucose so fast because my kidneys and liver were not functioning properly, you know, but on blood work, it looked fine, which was the fucked up part. So I had to go see specialists for all that event. And this took 2 years, almost 3 years to fix, mind you. I had a lot of glucose problems. Wow. And I thought it was just because of a bodybuilding diet and me being on growth and then all the insulin I did. And then I stopped everything. I was still having all these problems and I was just feeding to fix it. So that's why the weight got out of control, because I would have oatmeal or a candy bar or almond butter, and I'd have it every hour just to keep my glucose up, just so I would stay stable. And I wasn't fixing the problem. I was putting a Band-Aid on it, you know, until I had the right people around me to say, no, dude, you got to go. Like, because I was getting my cortisol checked, my adrenal gland checked. I mean, we did the craziest tests. I mean, I went through everything. MRI on my brain. Like, I mean, we went nuts. We thought it was almost like me doing it to myself. Like because I had almost PTSD about my blood sugar dropping, because this is now, mind you, 10, 15 hospital visits later from my glucose going to like sub 30 and passing out all over the place. And bro, it fucks you up. I know it sounds, people have low blood sugar.
Hyperinsulinemic. You had too much natural insulin that your blood sugar
body was like
overcompensating.
Yeah. Epinephrine, you know, that whole, the fight or flight mode. My body was going into that just out of nowhere. Like my body was, I had those butterflies that you get all fucking day, dude. Like that anxiety. It wasn't anxiety. It was like that, like you're about to do something exciting, that adrenaline. Yeah. That's what was happening to me, because the way my kidneys and livers were so fucked up. My pancreas was so fucked up. And I'll show you I have all the tests I could show you. It was a really hard time at the time to figure out what the hell was going on. And finally I got the right doctors to fix me. And literally, dude, it was the simplest fix. It was just the right health subs and removing foods and stuff out of my diet, so it wasn't being acidic, and having the right health subs to fix things. And it was fixed in 6 months to a year, being perfect after a year. Wow. And the ketogenic diet is how I started that, because they made me do the ketogenic diet. I couldn't have carbs at all. They're like, you have carbs, it's going to accelerate everything. It's going to put your body in the fight or flight mode, because then your glucose is going to get spiked.
I don't know if you know this, but actually carbohydrates directly raise norepinephrine.
Yes.
When you eat a carbohydrate, your norepinephrine raises. Many people don't know that. It's actually, they feel sick, but actually norepinephrine raises. Yeah.
My bodybuilding career consumed of high carbs. I mean, like My bodybuilding diet was carbs. I barely ate fats, dude. I never had fats in my diet. I always did a little bit of fats, like some steak here and there, salmon, but I never had any additive fats in my diet as a bodybuilder for my entire life, mind you. Insulin, which who knows if it affected me or not? I don't know. Growth, who knows if it affected me or not? I think it was just because my bill of health, honestly. I think it was just because during that time, that's when my bill of health started to get turned like shit those 3 years. I started taking more painkillers because my body felt like shit. I was coming out of bodybuilding. That's when the depression started to really kick in. And then before the preface that, I'm trying to jump over the place, but I want to make sure I get it in. I lost all my contracts then at that time. When after a year later, after I got them all, I did my first pro show. They were all ending like 2 months after that. So I had no income anymore. And that's when all the stress started. And that's when all the downhill spiral started. And that's 2016 or so. That's when I lost everything. And that's when I was like, fuck, I got to figure something out. Went back to selling cars. And then that's when all the party life really got to it was, we could talk about that if you want, but that was when it got really crazy. And that's when I think all the damage started to happen. And that's when it started going crazy.
It's pretty interesting, just to speculate a little bit. When you're taking a lot of opiate pills, like many people, I don't know if someone watching this never took opiates before, you develop a tolerance really quickly.
Oh my God, so fast.
You need to take it for an actual reason. So you're already taking it every day because you actually have pain. And then at some point you feel like I want to get a little bit high from the opiate. You take a little bit more, your tolerance raises immediately. So it's very quick that you can accumulate like 40 pills a day or 60 pills. Many people do that, and normal people otherwise, they end up with 40 pills a day. And that's a lot of pills for the liver to deal with.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
exactly right. And even for the kidneys, right? A lot of opiate addicts, don't know this, they get kidney failure.
Kidney failure all the time.
Yeah. So what happens is if your liver is constantly having to deal with these 40 or 60 pills a day, which are not like health supplements, these are
all oral steroids prior.
Yeah. So maybe your kidney liver's already weakened a little bit, and then you're doing that. So what may happen is when the liver is stressed, when you eat carbohydrates, or even when you eat fats, it may start to store the fat actually on the liver, on the pancreas, or even inside the cells of the liver, so that the liver can no longer hold carbohydrates.
Right.
This is how a lot of people end up with diabetes. So what happens is this: the liver can't hold carbohydrates, the liver cells. So your carbohydrates end up in the bloodstream, but your pancreas isn't messed up yet. So your pancreas overproduces insulin to get it out of the bloodstream.
Then it goes
exactly, and it shoots down. Actually, people don't know, before you become diabetic, for about 10 years beforehand, you're hyperinsulinemic. And the only way you can test this is with an oral glucose tolerance test.
Where they had the monitors all stuck in me for days. And they would call me and be like, what did you just eat? Because they would have it to their computer at the doctor's office.
Yeah, the Dexcom. Yeah.
I had months I wore that fucking thing. I had to wear it. It was so annoying.
It is. Which one did you wear? The recent one or a year and a half ago? Because the new one's better.
The new one was just the flat one. It was just like a little pin that went in, and they put a piece of Band-Aid over it, and it was fine. But the original one was this monitor.
Yeah,
that was sucked. Bro, it was so annoying. I had to put my arm in a Ziploc to shower. It was a fucking nightmare, dude. At the
like
time.
A bionic person or something.
Yeah, I looked like a bionic person, basically. Yeah. At least I still had muscle, so everyone's like, "Oh, what is that thing? Does that build muscle?" I'm like, if you only fucking knew what this thing was for right now. But yeah, you're dead on, because like when I did my cortisol test, the saliva test is bullshit. But when I did a real cortisol test, so your cortisol, I don't know if everyone knows this, but your cortisol gradually raises throughout the day. It's at its highest around midday to dinner. And then it starts to slowly go down when you go to bed, because your body thinks, your circadian rhythm knows it's going down to go to sleep. Mine would just keep going up. My cortisol was kept. Yeah. So by
insomnia also, right?
Yeah. So bro, I was up till 5 a.m. If you look at all my old posts, I was up at like 5, 6, wide awake. Like nothing, no drugs, no stims, no nothing. I'm like wide awake, like what the fuck is going on? And those were the signs that finally helped them figure out what was going on. Because of that, my cortisol was through the roof. It was crazy. So in the morning, till like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I would fall asleep everywhere. And then I would get this second wind in the afternoon. Like I just woke up, and my girlfriend's like, "You're a 3 o'clock man. Like you wake up at 3 o'clock, but your body's there, but you're not there, And that's when I got into that rhythm, it was really bad,
Yeah,
and then
the circadian rhythm is so debilitating for the body if you get it
so
wrong.
debilitating. Yeah, people don't even talk about that shit.
And even for glucose as well, because when I don't know if you might have heard this before, but before bed, when your melatonin naturally rises, you become insulin resistant.
Right.
But if your circadian rhythm is totally off and you're eating all day, half the time you're insulin resistant anyway. And plus your liver may have fat in it, so it can't store it. So
that's why I try to tell people, like, it's not healthy living the reverse life like that. That's not normal. Like, everyone's like, oh, I train my body to do that. I'm like, you can only push your body so far. It's gonna push back after a while. But
people who have the night shift die 5 years earlier than normal people.
I believe 1,000%, because oh god, yeah, and a lot of sleepless nights, from partying. But
I think you're not doing yourself justice, to be honest, because you're very humble now, and you're always humble, but you're very humble. I think what you accomplished here is almost as impressive as your bodybuilding accomplishments.
Thank you.
To me, because it's incredible.
It felt harder.
Yeah, it's harder.
Bodybuilding was easy for me, dude, compared to this.
People get stuck in that and spend 30 years like that. You got out of it, and that's a testament to your strength of character and your willpower, and maybe even your love for your fiance. To be honest.
Like I told you, like, if it wasn't for her, I know people say that, but like, she really was like my best friend for all those years. That was like, that guy's a dirtbag. That guy's taking advantage of you. This guy's doing that. You know what I mean? I didn't have that person in my corner, male or female, only her. And she wasn't even my girlfriend. She was just like, oh, that girl's definitely not. And she wasn't jealous. She had a boyfriend. She was, she was engaged and she was going to be married, and like that whole thing fell apart. But she was never there to like try to like ruin my life. It was always a positive reason. Like, that person's trying to do that to you. And I was always like, no. And then something would happen. And I'm like, fuck, man. Not after that happened so many times, I was like, I have to keep this person in my life, regardless if I date you or not, and she ended up moving in by accident because of some shit, but that's what brought us together. And then that's why we started to date. But that's why when I was in that deepest dark moment, I was like, this is the only person that's had my back, and I have nobody now, because now I'm not Mr. Bodybuilder. I'm not Mr. USA. I'm not traveling. I'm not on vacations all the time, and no one's talking to me now, dude.
It's surprising how quickly those people disappear when you're
They're
not
gone. They're no one. All my club friends gone. Nick's not making money anymore. He can't have a party anymore. He has a girlfriend. Out. And it's like, it literally was what everyone told me was going to happen. And then I was in it. It's a scary fucking thing, dude. It's like, people don't have any idea until you're in that moment. You have no idea.
So much about life, right? Because then you start to know, what should I really value? Because, okay, if I'm going to go be really successful with finances and money, what kind of people am I going to attract around me anyway? I mean, and then you start questioning people around you, and you see who stayed in touch with you, or who, and you learn. You learn about what's important in life. You learn about who your real friends are.
It comes out very clear at that point, though. It's like, you're like, oh, using me, piece of shit. You didn't care. You're only there when it's a good, you know what I mean? It was like, but at the time though, it was all blurry. You didn't know who, because you're like, oh no, he's got good intentions, or she has good intentions. And then, something would happen, but it's a lot to go through though. And I don't think people talk about that a lot, or people actually have it, that go through it, that talk about it. But
well, what's funny? People, and we'll go now. I just want to talk about YouTube for a bit, but before we say that, people who become really rich, who never lose anything, they never get to find this out. So they have friends for the rest of their lives that they don't even realize are not their real friends. Until something goes wrong or they lose everything, they'll never know. So there are tons of people that I have a lot of really rich friends. And some of them know. Some of them have a feeling. They're like, I don't really trust. And that's why they don't get, for example, excited if a girl comes up to them, because they know she probably wants something from me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they don't know who. Yeah.
It's very depressing though, because I wasn't rich. I'll tell you that. I wasn't rich. I had money for me, but I wasn't like, I didn't have enough money to be like, here's 100 G's for you. I wasn't living that life. So I was like, what the fuck are they what do they want out of me? You know what I mean? And it was just because they wanted to be associated with something that was cool, and they had nothing going on in their life. And these people become just stragglers, they attach for the weirdest things that you wouldn't even think of, at the time. You're like, why does he care? Just to be at a bottle at a table, or be around that person, or have the chance to see that person and use you to get to that person, and that's what all it became. And that's one reason why I didn't like California either. That's all that was, it was step over each other type of thing. It wasn't, oh, I'll help you, you help me,
California attracts people who are like that to it, especially LA. So LA is filled with people like that. Like,
what can you do for me? That type of shit, you know?
exactly.
And then you're like, oh, I'm above you now.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like, oh, I'm above you. I'm like, no, wait, you only met that person because of me. Like, you were a waitress, bitch. You were a waiter, you know? But the party scene was I mean, that was a very big time in my life too, though, because that's where like, you know, the shitstorm started, you know, it was a lot. Listen, do I regret it? There's so many memories that I'll take to the grave, that I had so much fun that I never would have experienced. And people I met that literally are good people, which I can't see every day because they don't live here. But there's so many memories that I'm just like, how could I not live like that though for a little bit? You know what I mean? There was a lot of bad times too, and close calls and things I probably shouldn't have done, but it's taught so much after, you know what I'm saying? After all those times, repetitive times, you're going out and seeing seeing rich people out and then seeing what they're like really. And you're like, I don't want to be like that. Like just little lessons.
Yeah. Lessons.
Little lessons along the way that you don't even know you're learning at the time. And then you're like, damn, I don't want to end up like that. Like once you start getting somewhere, you're like, I don't want to be that guy or that girl, you know, out or doing that, or, you know, at after hours on a Monday, like, you know, cause he has money, he can do it. Like, I don't want to be that, you know, it's just not,
exactly.
There's a lot of little lessons. Yeah. There's a lot of little lessons. It's very, when you reflect, you can see all that stuff. But when you're in the moment, you don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean?
But afterwards, you realize that it enriched your life in a way that you know what's important to you. Because you've seen a lot of things, you know. Whereas someone maybe who didn't try it, they may fantasize about that life and think it's more than what it is.
And I think a lot of people get in that trap though. They fall into that trap because they don't do it at all. Like they live too strict almost. I'm not saying you have to be a lunatic drug addict or anything crazy, but they have the same girlfriend, or they don't date that much. They're very, you know, introvert people. They don't get out too much. And then they like regret that later in life. And I'm like, I'm glad I did it and it's done. And I never have to even go there or think about it. It doesn't even cross my mind anymore. Like I get anxiety almost thinking about being up for 3 fucking days straight, you know, in those positions. Those don't even, it's weird though, because you're like, not even that long ago, I was obsessed, you know, like I had FOMO every day. I'm like, what am I missing out on? You know, I would scroll through and be like, what are they doing? You know? And then I'm like, why did I even care what they were like? It was the same thing I did the weekend before.
Exactly. FOMO is very dangerous, to be honest. It causes a lot of unnecessary.
I don't think people talk about it enough to see like really how bad it gets, especially social media, dude. Yeah. It was the worst thing ever, especially at the end.
Okay, let's talk about your YouTube briefly before we finish. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is your channel. Something happened to your channel lately, which was absolutely horrible. You basically got canceled from YouTube, censored. Now you have a new channel. I'm going to mention in the intro what it's called, but it's called Body Science Supplements, right?
It's my supplement store. I open an account under my partner's name so we can legally. I tried reopening accounts and they kept turning them off as soon as I made them on YouTube. And I even had like the YouTube TV in my house because it's actually a pretty good app. And they canceled all my TV service too because of that thing.
Wow.
All they gave me was my email. That's the only thing they gave me. So I was just like, this is so weird. Like it just, mind you, we'll talk about what I did, but like, I was just like, this is the strangest thing because of a stupid video I did about somebody, you know, but I named it after my supplement store. So I'd fly under the radar. That's all. So,
yeah. So you started on YouTube, was it 3 years ago or so?
So that account was from 2005.
Oh, wow.
But I had like a couple of videos on there when I used to drive to the gym and work out and like stupid when I like, God knows what I recorded it on and uploaded, but I deleted all that stuff. But religiously 2 years I was on YouTube, you know.
Yeah. And
hardcore.
And I
hit or miss for 1 year, you know.
I have to give you some props on a number of things because it's not just a YouTube channel where you told the truth about your experiences in bodybuilding, which you did. I mean, very frankly, as someone who, you know, I watch a lot of bodybuilding stuff and I know people in the sport, you really talk very honestly. You give a lot of information for free. But more importantly, you brought some things to the online YouTube community that has never been talked about before. One of the things that was the most useful, I think, for bodybuilders, I've never done this, but I can only imagine how useful this is telling people how to use spot injections properly.
Yeah.
because your method is way better than any other method I've come across or heard of in my life.
It's
Really.
so funny. Those videos were like, and I'm not even bragging. Like, I mean, I get messages about those more than anything. And I'm like,
because it was totally new. Nobody had ever heard about that online before. They were injecting with huge needles in the face, getting a huge, massive scar tissue. Yeah, huge, massive scar tissue. And then you're like, no, be smart. Rotate around the area, even your chest, move around. You know you're going to develop scar tissue. You don't want lumps.
Yeah.
Basically, you don't want to end up like some ex-pro bodybuilders right now who have like pointy triceps.
Oh my God, man. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's part of bodybuilding though. That's the thing. Like there's an art to that, as weird as it sounds and sketchy because it's a needle, but there's an art to it and there's a method to the madness. And you have to have a system if you're going to be, you know, you're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of shots involved and people, I think, don't realize how many shots you're doing after a while. Like you don't even add it up. And then I look into my closet one day and it's full of syringes. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I don't even realize what I'm doing half the time. You're just, you know, you're throwing in your protein bucket and you tape it up and that's it. And you move on, you know, but it's.
So you go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, so I was saying your channel brought so much, honesty. And as I gave you an example of a great idea that you brought to the people. It's a great channel. But you know what's weird about it? I was always surprised you sort of like stabilized at 20,000 subscribers, which I didn't really understand why, because and I don't understand this myself. I'm not into bodybuilding at all. I was into strength lifting and stuff like that, but I don't understand how there's some channels where the people are into fitness. They're into basically bodybuilding, but they don't, but they have, 100,000, 300,000, 500,000. They have more than RX muscle. They grow really fast. But yours was stuck at 20, which makes me think that maybe YouTube was not promoting your stuff or something like that.
So I got to 20K pretty fucking easily. I mean, I don't remember even climbing at the 20K. It was just there one day. And then 20 to 25 before it got shut down, or whatever it was, 24 and a half, whatever the fuck it was the longest 4,000 subscribers ever. So how many, I'm not trying to call you out, right, but how many subscribers do you have right now?
I have 3.6.
Okay. So like I got to 10 and then they started. So I got to 10,000 and they reached out to me like, oh, congrats. They gave me like a little email and it was just an automated thing. And I got to 15 and it looked a little personal or custom. And they actually got a person's name signing it, not just like YouTube. And I was like, oh, cool. 20K. I got someone's email contact. And I was like, oh, now mind you, maybe they haven't looked at my channel hardcore enough yet, or maybe realized what I was doing. From that point forward, every video got demonetized, copyright, and I wasn't even doing it, bro. There was nothing even wrong with the videos. Like I was actually talking about like normal things now. And then I realized people couldn't even find my channel when they were searching for it a lot of the time. Like they would type in Nick Trigili and it just wouldn't even come up. They had to look for like certain tags and stuff like that for certain things. And then it got a little more visible and it would go away. And I'm not blaming YouTube for not growing. Maybe I just wasn't popular enough, but it was a weird time after I hit 20K though, because I realized they were so much stricter on me about everything. Like, everything. I was
thinking about it. First of all, I really think that your channel should have grown more because like there's a huge audience that wants to know the truth about steroids or the truth about what they do. And that's how actually Greg, by the way, grew his channel, is that he was doing go ahead.
Do you watch on your videos, you see like the first hour, what you normally do. And then the second, like, you watch all your algorithms. I would notice some days I would get no views for an hour. And I'm like,
interesting.
I'm like, how is that fucking possible? And then an hour later, I'll have like 20. And then I'll post another video next day, same time, same thing, 300 views, 500 views. And I'm like, that's weird. And I would do it again. I would just start repeating the same process every day. And I started to see like, okay, it's getting held up here. I had like a little theory of not doing things, things that would trigger them. I feel like, if I talked about certain words or thumbnails or keywords in the title, and I got really like bland about words, but then it wasn't getting exciting anymore. It was like not.
Which I find interesting because, some people like there's, like for example, RX Muscle, he'll mention sometimes steroids in the title, but he doesn't seem to get, Dave doesn't seem to encounter this problem.
No.
But some other channels, like many channels have had to stop mentioning.
Dave has worse stuff than I did.
Yeah. Dave talks about on his Q&A, he talks about whatever he wants, whatever he wants, he talks about it openly.
Even Greg Doucette, when he first came out, when he was doing good videos, he was talking openly about, everything.
Well, not just that, actually, how Greg's channel grew specifically, and he's even said this on his videos, is by making profiles about SARMs and steroids. That's every video was about one steroid or one SARM, and he would just tell his experience about it. That's how his channel grew. And then once that happened, then he stopped doing it that much.
Yeah. He never talks about that stuff anymore, though.
No, because now it's. But the other thing it could have been, by the way, is someone could have been reporting your videos. So you could have had some hater that was reporting your videos repeatedly, and then YouTube was thinking that you're actually putting out really bad stuff.
That was what the straw that brought the camel's back. That's how I lost my fucking channel, though. That's the thing.
So someone reported. So what happened? First of all, Greg Doucette did this huge video against you. I don't know if that had something to do with it, because he has a lot of people that will report stuff.
Well, I don't think he did anything directly.
No, not him. I'm talking about.
I don't think he's harmless. I just think it was probably his little trolls these kids that are literally, like, for preface, like, the DMs I got were fake profiles, no photos, and like a teen. Like 12, 13, like barely, like not even 13, like little kids that were DMing me talking shit. And I was like, this is hilarious. Like, this is what he tracks. But then I'm thinking, like, these kids are watching these videos and they're 12, 13, 14 years old. Unless they're fake profiles, they could have been, but they looked legit. Like, they looked like real people. They had like real comments from people. It wasn't, you could stage a profile pretty easily, but it was not fake stuff. And I'm like, they're watching Greg? It just didn't even make sense.
Well, Greg says on his videos, he tries to make the video like the language of a 9th grader. So he says that many times. Yeah, many times he said that. He says that he wants it to be accessible to everyone, but he specifically says 9th grader every time.
That's hilarious.
So I think, I noticed this for the audience who doesn't know the background. Nick made a video must have been 2 months, a month and a half ago or something like that. Yeah. Saying it wasn't a hateful video at all. It's not on his channel anymore, I guess. And Greg only has clips of it in his response. But basically it was saying, I'm confused. How does Greg charge whatever it was, $24,000 a month, a year for training?
It's pretty much a month.
Yeah, he was confused, and all he was saying was like, I just don't understand. It wasn't. No, I watched the video from Nick, and I was thinking when I saw it, I didn't sense jealousy or anything. I sensed genuine confusion because nobody on earth charges that much. And now Greg's response was like, I can charge that much, so I do. Which is fine. You're being upfront about it. He's like,
it was a debate. To me, it was a debate.
Yeah, it's fine. It should have been a debate. It shouldn't have been such an attack from Greg. Greg went back, tried to make Nick look like he's jealous of him and all this kind of stuff, which was totally unnecessary. Because all Nick was saying was like, what's up with 24,000? Greg said, I can charge it, so I do. That's the end of the story. Okay, makes sense. That's fine. By the way, Nick, no, Greg charges $1,100 an hour for consultations. Yeah, that's what shocked me. Not the 24. It's the 1,100 because I used to work in private equity. We used to get paid a lot per hour. Lawyers get paid a lot. I've never,
500, 400 an hour. Yeah. Like, I get 400 an hour for a lawyer, but not fucking for Greg Doucette. But mind you, his year is 36,000. Mind you, it's discounted.
Yeah, discounted. Yeah. If you paid all up front, it's 24.
But mind you, okay, this is not hating on Greg. That video I made, I literally just said, Greg, like, what is worth that much? You're still doing the same thing I do, or Hani Rambod or Chad Nichols does. So what are you doing that's so different, or what knowledge do you have that's so different, or degrees or qualifications or certificates or experience? Who have you coached that's worth $36,000 a year? That's all I was saying. Like, it did not make sense. And it literally was, I wanted to get a reaction video for him to go, this is what I provide. I do this. I wanted to hear what he had to say. And it was literally just for fun, because I was trying to ante him to say something, but not to attack me as if like I'm trying to, like, call his ex-wife out or his mom or fucking. I wasn't trying to do anything negative to him. It was just literally just asking, what makes you worth that much money? I want to hear it. Just tell me. It's for fun. I was anti him, but then he turns into like how I want him, because I asked him a year and a half prior to that to do my video for me, a podcast with Santi, mind you. Santi also asked him to do it because Santi was friends with him at the time. Maybe he is. I don't know. So we both asked him, hey, you want to do a podcast with us for fun? Because we had that podcast at the time too. And he was like, oh, I don't have the time or whatever. You saw his reaction. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation.
To be clear, like what Greg was saying was like, oh, he sent me this message. I barely replied to him. I didn't know who he was. something like that. But keep in mind, guys, whoever's watching this, at the time that Nick asked him to do the podcast, Greg's channel was totally different. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't being, he's really.
He was doing the same stuff I was.
He was totally different. He was like reasonable.
And he had like 40, 50,000 subscribers.
Exactly. So, but later Nick was like, now I think of the channel as a trolling channel or a screaming channel.
Yeah.
So that's because the channel changed. Nick said the message before the channel changed. So it's not like he's being two-faced. No, the channel changed.
Yeah. His whole attitude changed. Everything changed. Listen.
That's fine.
It's fine. I didn't knock his channel. I never said anything about what he did.
He tried to make it seem like you were talking, you know what I mean?
He tried to paint it like that was present day. And
now you're saying it's a trolling channel, but you messaged me before, said you respected me. Well,
he made it look like it happened right then and there. Like he ignored me. So I was like, fuck you. I'm going to call you out now, but.
Exactly. Well, anyway, the point is when that happened, I bet you got a lot of his trolls coming on your channel because just to spoil. So a week later, he made a video about me and Boston Lloyd because we talked about his. I don't know if it's his cookbook or
he called you out or Boston.
Both of us. Well, it was my channel, but he called on the title. But he put the clips of me talking, and he's responding to me. So yeah, he put Leo on longevity and all that stuff, and he said. Basically, what I was saying was this. I had seen videos of Greg 6 months ago. At the time when I had that discussion with Boss, it was a bit old. He replied to an old video. So I hadn't seen his recent pictures or whatever. When I looked at the videos 6 months ago, he looked really muscular and really low body fat. And he looked like he was on a lot of anti-estrogens. So when I saw the video, I saw that, and in that video, he said, I'm only on 140 milligrams of testosterone. That's all, nothing else. That's all I take, HRT. So when I was talking to Boston was talking about fake natties. I said, it's funny. Greg just said makes all these videos about other people saying they're fake natties. But in his video, he says 140 milligrams. But the guy has no body fat. You can't be on no body. You got to be at least on anti-estrogens. You got to be on growth, something. You can't be just 140.
And he's lean too. He's not even he's lean.
He's really lean. You can't retain that mass. If you were that talented, you'd be Mr. Olympia if you would do a big cycle. You're not, you can't. It doesn't make sense. But then now I looked at his recent videos. He looks a bit different now. So maybe he really is on 140. But he made a response to me. So what happened to me is all these little accounts came and they're like, are you an idiot? You're saying 140 is natural. Are you crazy? You're so stupid. Your child's stupid. And this
honestly,
what happened to you?
I thought I was expecting more. To be honest, I mean, to me, it wasn't really anything to even worry about. Like, it didn't stop I thought it was going to stop my day. I thought it was going to fuck me up, be annoying. We're at the point where I was going to be sitting there blocking kids all day. I got a little rush one time and that was it. And then they would trickle in here and there, I guess when people watch the video just to talk shit. And, but they weren't 100% pro Greg at the end. They were just well, why'd you do that? And I would explain to them, yeah, I get it. Okay, but I'm still boys with Greg's my boy.
Greg's my boy or Greg's my doctor. I would always say,
and I'm
Greg's my doctor.
And I'm okay, but that's fine. But I didn't see it as a negative thing. They're just they're defensive of Greg, whatever. But the first initial ones, yes, they were annoying. They were just being little kids and but I even told you this personally, I don't care if people attack. I think it's funny as shit that people make videos and try to bring up. I thought he was going to bring up my past. I legit that's what I thought he was going to do.
I'm surprised he didn't do that.
That's what I thought he was going to do. And I was I can't wait for this one. I was pumped because that was when I was fired up to do the video. And then I saw the video and I'm that's what he, and I was I'm not even doing a rebuttal video. This is so stupid. I'm not playing this game with him, because, he likes that shit. I don't. I did my one video to make my point, and that was it. I didn't want to go into a war with the guy.
I think you can't, and people can't make videos about that anymore because it would be considered homophobic or something.
Like the Me Too movement.
Yeah. So you couldn't do
I could claim the Me Too movement.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I'll get his channel removed.
So how do you think that your channel got removed? It's from the video you made of the promoter.
So the first strike I got,
nameless, probably, just in case he tries to get.
So I'll tell you what happened. The first strike I got was from, what's his name? The Florida promoter. I can't remember his name. The Asian guy.
Yeah.
The Filipino dude. Because I was streaming his Tampa Pro show. He got pissed.
Oh.
He recorded me, and I got a strike for that, which I didn't even care because I never had anything wrong on my YouTube ever. And then I lied to YouTube, and I said, oh, he gave me permission. And I was just lying to them. And they're like, oh, okay. So they took the strike away literally the next day. And I was like, oh, perfect. That was easy. And I was good to go. So then I made that video about that other promoter doing the other show. And I just talked about his past and brought it up. I didn't say anything bad about him. I just said, hey, like, Santi got ripped off. You know, he's not getting his money back. Is anyone else incurring this problem? Maybe we can get, or, you know, figure what's going on. And it was just literally to help Santi. And it turned into this whole fucking ordeal that, you know, he ended up suing me for the video. But he reported my video from his one business account, his personal account, and his other business account for copyright. Because I used his logo in the thumbnail of his company.
Are you serious?
He said it was property. You know, he claimed it as
copyright infringement.
Yeah, copyright infringement, but the other one or two.
Trademark.
Trademark, and there's another one, defamation, and then there's one more else he sued me for. I forgot. I'll show you the lawsuit. It's hilarious. So he reported 3 times. I lost my channel immediately because of him. Wow. Literally got the video removed, and then the next day I got it suspended on that Sunday. And they're like, email us back your rebuttal and we'll reactivate it if we think or whatever. I wrote him like a page of what happened. I depicted everything that happened. And I was like, listen, I'm like, it's a Google image. Like, he doesn't show me the trademark. Show me he owns that. And I'll be like, okay, fine, I'll own it. But he didn't show ownership. He just reported it like anyone else would. Mm. So they turned my channel back on the next day, that Monday. Mm. And I was like, oh, great, got it back. Mm. I posted another video. 3 hours later, it got terminated completely, and they never answered me since. And they never answered me even to why they turned it back on and then turned it back off again. So I don't know if he reported it again because it went back on, but like, there's no way he's legally allowed to provide 3 copy strikes in one video, because you get 3 copy strikes with YouTube in one video to lose your channel completely. I've never done anything wrong anyway. Like I never even had a video like copyrighted, turned off or anything, you know?
Usually 3 strikes to get the channel.
He did, but
within a month or something.
He did all 3 on one video.
Yeah, but they can't give you 3 strikes for the same thing. Usually it has to be
exactly. So he did, but I shows a report where he reported it from. It was his one company, his personal name, and then his other company. Mm. Because of the Boston Pro, that was the name of the show, and then the other things that he owns.
You know what's weird? So 2 things. Number one, so it's pretty interesting. Like, first thing, in terms of reporting people for having your content or your streaming or something like that, Greg Doucette, for example, makes videos all the time where he takes another person's whole video.
Screen records it.
Yeah, he records it and he puts it in his video. No,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is, so there does seem to be like you can sue someone for defamation, and once you sue them, YouTube takes it seriously. If you tell YouTube that you sued them. So, for example, this happened famously to a guy called Jason Blaha.
Yeah, I know Jason Blaha.
Yeah, Jason Blaha made a Natty or Not video about a guy called Lane Norton. And Lane
Norton's a fucking...
Who, by the way, very questionable that he's natty. Whatever.
Yeah, very questionable.
Very questionable. Let's see. Allegedly...
Bodybuilding.com guru right there.
Yeah, bodybuilding.com. That's true. So Lane sued Jason Blaha across the pond. He sued him in England. He was in England. And
how is that possible?
Sued him, and basically Jason he owed money to defend himself in England. He had to leave the country. He had to his YouTube got shut down. He opened a new YouTube and he moved to the US, and that's how he started his channel here. So apparently you can sue people for saying natty or not and calling you non-natty, which is interesting because, again, Greg calls everyone non-natty. I'm surprised.
What the fuck? I did not know that.
It's a tricky situation. It's hard to talk about people or include anything, and it basically depends on how aggressive they are. If they have a legal team, they have money, I guess they can push it on you.
My girlfriend promised me that I don't call anybody out anymore. She's like, don't get your shit removed again. You just did all I wasn't even bothered by the YouTube I was like, oh, I'll just start a new one. I didn't even care. It was just the fact that I lost all the content that pissed me off. I don't care about the subscribers. It was just like, I didn't have all those videos backed up, and I was getting like, I was putting out some good shit at the end. I felt like I was doing videos almost every day again. And I was like, you know, and I bought all new cameras and lighting, and I set all my shit up. And then I'm like, I was doing all that work, and now it's all gone. That's what kind of annoyed me. And now I'm like, do I do it all over again because it's gone, or do I start fresh? Like, do I just keep going from where I was? I'm like, do people remember, or do I just do all those videos all over again? Because I have all the ideas written down. Do I just do them all over again? It's a weird position to be in.
To be honest, it's really difficult because it's going to take so long for the subscriber count to come back, and most of them won't be the same people. A lot of them,
because that channel's so old, dude.
Yeah. Well, I know some of the people following your channel right now. It has just barely anyone has found it yet. I think maybe you put more posts on your Instagram.
Well, I waited between me and you. I waited to put it out there because I didn't know what this guy was going to try to do. So I was like, is he going to report this channel too? But it's under my partner's name. There's no way they could even do that to me.
That's what Blaha did. So Blaha right now, his channel's not under his name. It's under someone else's name, and he is a presenter on the channel.
Oh,
technically, so you can't.
It says when I got terminated, I cannot have anything in my name on YouTube at all.
But you can be a presenter.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm good then. Okay, because I was using a VPN. I was using a VPN to upload all my videos, so they couldn't find because I literally would turn on a new YouTube in my name or my girlfriend's name from my IP address, and they would fucking turn it off in 2 seconds.
That must take you so long to upload the videos through the VPN.
It was archaic. Trust me. So even my girlfriend's name, they banned when I did it that day. Maybe right now they probably won't bother it, but I tried to make a YouTube in her name and they didn't let me do it. Which is weird. But I did it in my supplement stores in Pennsylvania, so I don't think they're even. And it has a Google address. It's tied to the Google address. So actually, it's gonna be a little better off this way anyway because it feeds my store. But it's just the content is what bothered me because I had so many good interviews with like Chad and like all those pro bodybuilders. I had
tons of interviews, not just Chad. I mean, you had
just a lot of good ones. A lot of good ones. I don't want to.
You had everybody on there, and they were going to keep providing revenue for the future, and not just revenue, but let people see interesting content.
It's good stuff. People loved rewatching that stuff, and that's what makes me feel bad. I'm like, damn, I should have been smarter about it. Now everything's getting backed up. I have every video I make now is getting backed up into a subfolder because I'm like, I'm not having myself lose, even though it's a lot of work to do, but it is what it is. I don't want to be. YouTube is. It's a scary thing to how fast they did that to me. Now, listen, I don't know if they would do that to somebody with 100, 200, 500, like Greg. Like, I don't know if they would do it that fast. I don't know. But it's very scary to see how fast they just zip. Like, if that was let's say that made money for me, like legit money. They just rip it from you like that without even talking to you? Nothing? Zero?
So that's why it's really important to diversify your content. Specifically now, I don't do this myself, but I know I should do it. First, I don't make money from YouTube, but I
didn't make any money either. But it just
but the way you should do it is Facebook. Facebook actually, by the way, pays more ad revenue per view. We've talked about this briefly. Facebook, and then I think Instagram Live TV, like recording it at the same time and putting it on your lives. I think that's the future. So if you do all three, they can't really, what are they going to do to you?
I have iTunes set up. I have a podcast. I have a thing set up on that and Spotify. So I put them on the audio at least on there.
Was it set up before?
Yeah, I had it set up. I uploaded some videos on there. There's some audio. There's some good ones on there, but not all of them. I got lazy after a while uploading them because it was just a pain in the ass. But
But you know what? I wanted to say one last thing is that you're a really, really good interviewer. I really liked watching your interviews. I mean, not many people I've seen on YouTube, especially in bodybuilding, are the way you are. You made your guests feel comfortable. That's why it's so sad you lost those interviews.
I know. Thank you for saying that. And you could ask my girlfriend straight up. I would look so forward to interviewing. I felt like when Joe Rogan says like he loves meeting people and introducing himself and meeting people and getting to know them. That's how I feel about interviewing people. But all the work that no one sees to get that person on that screen is so hard. And I'm not getting paid for it. So I was like, I have to dedicate more time to my job. Like that's my livelihood. YouTube was just literally, I would do it for fun. It was my outlet every day to go talk to someone because I'm in solidarity pretty much all day besides me, my girlfriend, and my dogs. I'm not sure how your lifestyle is, but like, I don't talk to anybody all day except my clients through text message or a phone call. And then that outlet every day was the interview. I would I'd have somebody on and get to know them. So I was excited to go talk to someone. It was like literally like being in jail almost, because like I'm working all day.
You did a great job. It was really many great interviews.
I want to start having people on again. I just like,
It doesn't pay off, but I feel like you're making such good content with the interviews and you're so good at the style of interviewing that I think eventually it'll be a thing of its own where you just have a podcast, aside from your coaching.
Yeah, I always said my dream job would be to work at ESPN because like I love sports and I'm like, I would love to just interview people all day. And that's why I did the podcast. That's the only reason I started it when I did, because I was like, this will be like my ESPN of bodybuilding, the World Class Fitness Network. And that's like what I wanted to turn into. And I wanted to have anybody and everybody on my channel. I didn't care about just bodybuilding. I just wanted to have everybody on. I wanted to have someone on every day like Joe Rogan did almost. Like I wanted people on every day. But not everyone's comfortable with interviews. I've realized this. Not everyone likes being on camera. I didn't know that. I thought everyone likes camera attention. And then number two, people are not respectful of your time. Like they're like, I tell them like today we had to film at 4. They would show up at like 4:50 or text me at 6. Are you ready?
So let me tell you a funny story. I'll tell you off camera who it is, but we have a mutual friend who's a famous YouTuber who I've tried to have on the channel a couple of times. He's a really
I know who you're talking about.
He's a really nice guy, and I really like him. Actually, genuinely like him. I know him pretty well. So
not a bodybuilder.
Well, I'll tell you later who he is. But the point is, 4 or 5 different times I've scheduled my night because he always wants to talk at night. So I scheduled my night, gotten ready, got the thing set up, got his interview questions ready.
Oh, annoying, dude.
Ruined my night. So 4 or 5 times, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing it for views. I just want to talk to him, but I do it 4 or 5 times. It's crazy, So anyway,
right when you first asked me too, I was so like tainted because I was just like, there was so much shit going on and drama going on. I was like, I didn't want to give, not you, it was just everyone else. Like, I was just like over interviewing people and being around, like talking to people about stuff. And because you know how it is. Like when you're not in the mood, some days you're like, I'm not feeling it today. Like I've rescheduled on people because I'm just like, it's not going to be genuine. If I go on there, I'm going to be like a dick and be short and just not want to talk to you. You have to want to talk. Like if you're not going to talk, don't go on a podcast. Because how many times have you interviewed some people and you're like, fuck, what the fuck am I going to say? Like it's been 10 minutes and like, I don't know what to even say to this guy or girl, whoever it is.
Yeah, if you're not in the mood, if you're not excited and interested, it just won't work. The interview
brain's not firing. The questions aren't coming to you. And then that person's not engaging and you're like, you're carrying the conversation the whole time. Yeah. It's like a lot of work sometimes. It's stressful. You're just like, I got to keep this going.
Yeah, last question. I wanted to ask you, are you friends with Chad? Or how did you get him so many times on your channel? It's incredible. He doesn't report anyone.
I met Chad back in... So a bodybuilder who hasn't turned pro, but one of my closest friends, Kevin Tomasini. I don't know if you know who he is or not. He's a promoter of the Wisconsin Badger State. Him and his wife have a bunch of shows in Wisconsin. I guest posed for him probably fucking 7 years in a row when I was bodybuilding because they had 2 shows every year. Now they have 4, but I would guest pose at every show. And he was his coach. Chad was his coach. And Chad would come to every show. And this is going back to 2000 and I wasn't even pro yet and I was guest posing. 12, 11, I think I started guest posing for them. Yeah, it was probably somewhere around, it might have even been earlier than that, dude. And Chad would come to every show because he was Kevin's coach. And Kevin was hot in the bodybuilding scene at the time. He was second place, third place, second place, third, never turned pro. He was second place like 10 times. And Kevin's like 3 or 4 years older than me. And Chad would come to every show. And me and Chad like just got close because of that. Literally, we would see each other, twice a year, 3 times a year, plus nationals, plus the shows I worked. We would grab lunch at a show or, meet up for dinner, go out for a drink. And like we became friends that way. And then we just always stayed in touch. And literally, like, he's probably one of my closest friends in the bodybuilding industry. Like, we talk almost every day, just via text or, like, just bullshit about something or call me about something. His son is, like, pretty close to me, the one that plays football. Yeah. Like, looks up to all bodybuilders and stuff. Chad is, like, one of the most – him and his wife, Kim, are just, like – his wife, was Miss Olympia or whatever. But, like, it's just, like – you couldn't ask for nicer people, like, and the most just like, and people don't even know Chad's real life. Like, Chad was a cop and shit. Like, I don't think people even know that. Like his real life.
He has biker friends. He's like an interesting.
He's like the shit. Like, he's like the man. You know what I mean? Like, so like, and like, you know, he coached Ronnie Coleman and Flex and Mike Tyson for a while. And like, you
If
know,
anyone knows the secret, it's him.
right. So like I learned so much because of him, just from being around him, not even because I drilled him. Like I drilled him too, but just from being around him and just commonly talking about stuff, or conversations would come up, or I'd be in the room with one of his clients, or like I would tag along with them around Kevin or whatever. And he would teach me a lot of ins and outs about prepping and dieting and nutrition and training and the science behind things. And like, I know a lot of shit I can't even talk about because of him, because I would break our trust, because he told me a lot of stuff he used to do. And people don't even realize, I talk about this a lot, like the stuff that you think Ronnie Coleman did or Flex Wheeler did, it's like, it will baffle you that what they really did. Because I've seen his notebooks. He has binders for everybody that he's always trained. And like, I mean, like, bro, his one room, I mean, it looks like a library of notebooks when he used to take notes and have people's Polaroids, because he has Polaroids of every month when guys would send their check-in photos from like back in the day. There was no digital cameras. You had Polaroids, or, the film. He would send a film camera to them in the mail, and letters from like Ronnie Coleman and like Flex Wheeler and Milos, and, you know, just bodybuilding history shit, you know? And he's just the man. Like nothing gets to his head. You know, he's not like the rest of them. He's not a social media junkie. He's not looking.
That's why I was curious. And the other thing is, your interviews with him were such a pleasure to watch. I watched all of them. Even though I'm not into bodybuilding,
we've talked for 6 to 7 hours straight sometimes and I would only play like 3 hours of it, because some of it's just like, you don't even, people probably would like to hear it, but I'm just like, no one's going to talk about here is talk about. We would start at midnight, because he was a night owl too, and talk to 6 o'clock in the morning. That was when we did our interviews, because his kids would go to sleep and his wife would go to sleep. He'd be done with work. You know, he promotes a lot of bodybuilding shows where he is too. And he was a night owl. And so was I at the time. We were doing a lot of those. So we would meet up at 12 o'clock, and sometimes I'd forget to hit record, dude. And we would talk for like 2 hours, and I'm like, Chad, I forgot to hit record. He's like, fuck it, just turn on now. And we would talk for another 4 or 5. If I didn't stop it, he would have talked for like 20 hours straight, dude. He just talks.
That's incredible.
And it's genuine though. Like, it's not like him just wanting to hear himself talk. Like, you saw the interviews. He's like,
they are amazing. I mean,
yeah, he's.
You don't have backups for those?
No.
Oh my God, those are really good.
You know, I said, you know, literally too. Like, I know we've been talking for a while, but I remember when I would make the videos for those, I'm like, I should definitely save these to like a DVD. They're so good. Because I'm like, they're going to get fucked up somehow. Something's going to happen. And this was like, you know, way before my YouTube got taken away. And, but I wonder if Zoom can extract them. They were all on Zoom a while ago.
Yeah, you look. Hopefully, everything will. At least now you learned your lesson. It's only 2 years in. Think about it that way.
It's only 2 years in.
You have a 30-year amazing career.
Sleepless nights of YouTube videos for no money. Is that crazy?
Yeah, you need to go on Amazon and buy 100 external hard drives.
Bro, if I open I have in my safe, because that's how sketched out I am about them. I have like 7 already, just from like client stuff and everything else. It's like. It's insane though, with how many external hard drives I have. But
hey, I gotta really thank you for coming on the show.
I thank you for being persistent with asking me too.
No, I had to, because like I said, I just want to remind the audience what Nick did is something unbelievable. Rare that you find in life someone that gets, you know, off that stuff completely. It's clear. You can clear as
and quit steroids too. That's not easy either.
Also, that's another thing I didn't mention, which is you're clearly, from at least my eyes, you look natural to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on TRT because I can't live without it, but that's
a real TRT, not the
a real TRT from Titan Medical. I'll give them a shout out, but but I have a normal test level, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm down to 240 though, from 240, 239 right now. I'm teetering at. So I want to go back to the gym though. Like I'm starting to really miss it, but I don't want to get big again. Like, that's just not what I want to do. Like, I want to stay in shape, but it's hard to go into a gym.
I know.
We didn't even talk about that. Like, going into that gym and trying to train like easy or like not like a bodybuilder is like a cock tease, you know?
I can't do that also, because I used to be very strong. I can't go if I go to the gym.
You have a different mindset. It's very hard to train your mind to go easy or not heavy or not hard.
You know what I think is the key is to get into some weird sport. Like, I got into climbing, which is really fun.
Well, I tried to do the cycling thing, and that failed miserably. I bought every accessory because I'm hardcore. I'm addictive like that. I bought everything, the sickest bike, the sickest tires. I did it for like a month and I'm like, I hate it. I don't even want to go. I don't want to look at the fucking thing.
Yeah,
I want to go back into jujitsu or something, or boxing or something, I think.
Jiu-jitsu is a clear path.
I did that when I was young. When I was young.
You know, those guys, they all have joint problems.
Fucked. They're fucked.
Yeah, it's really bad.
That's why I quit, because I was like, this is going to destroy me as I get older.
Especially when you're heavy, right? I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here, but I was like...
So much fun. So much fun. I mean, it's a thinking man sport. You know, you got to really... I like boxing too, but the thing is, I don't know if I can weight train again. I don't think I'm going to be able to...
Maybe your head is safe for boxing also because you have the extra...
I have so much meat up there now, dude. I always said to my girlfriend, I want to see if I can handle a hit. I'm like, I haven't got hit in a while. I wonder if any of that tissue up there in the like calcified skull is like ready to go.
Anyway, Nick, we'll talk on text. Thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you coming on.